Transmigrated into the canon. Fodder's daughter. Chapter 160 to Chapter 172. The two zombies only saw a blur in front of their eyes and felt that they had been transferred. They looked around and didn't recognize where they were. But they were extremely vigilant in their hearts. To be able to take the father and son away quietly, their strength was probably above them. Although they were zombies who had cultivated for more than 1,000 years, they didn't think that they were invincible. Could it be that the mirror demon did it? Grandpa Hongjiang's expression was dignified. Compared to his grandson, his facial expression was more natural. His appearance was no different from an ordinary human, except for a pair of red eyes with a hint of gold that revealed his abnormality. That mirror demon doesn't have such ability. The father and son discussed while looking for clues related to leaving. The next second, the familiar cheerful voice sounded. "Dad, Grandpa, are you okay?" Then Grandpa Hongjiang saw his grandson jumping over with a happy face. His heart skipped a beat. Why did the silly grandson come in too? It's over. They have one more burden. It's even more hopeless. Hongjiang didn't know that his grandpa had scolded him several times in his heart. After being led in by Li Xiao and successfully meeting his grandpa and father, he was so happy that he almost forgot his business. "Don't worry. This is my space. There won't be any danger." A pleasant female voice sounded. Grandpa Red Zombie looked over and saw a young girl with bright eyes standing not far away. She had a smile on her face. If she hadn't taken the initiative to speak, he wouldn't have even noticed her aura. To be able to create a space out of thin air, she was probably at the level of an immortal. Hongjiang hurriedly introduced, "Dad, Grandpa, this is Li Xiao. She even bought coffins from our family before." Hearing this, the father and son were slightly relieved. They often heard the silly boy Wang Jun mention Li Xiao. His grandson's sixth sense was very accurate. He basically didn't misjudge people. According to him, Li Xiao was someone who could be trusted. "Why did you bring us here?" Wang Jun's father asked aloud. Li Xiao mentioned what happened in Xiang province during this period of time. Wang Jun's grandfather said angrily, "It's not us. Our clan cultivates by relying on moonlight. If we consume flesh and blood, it will conflict with our cultivation method and hinder our cultivation." "I know." Li Xiao could understand their feelings, but at this time, if you appear in this territory, I'm afraid that you will be arrested as murderers. There are a lot of surveillance cameras installed nearby, so I took you away. Grandpa Wang Jun's furrowed brows relaxed. "Thank you." According to what Li Xiao said, many heavenly masters were gathered here. If there was a conflict, the father and son might really be injured. Li Xiao asked, "Why did you come here?" "I heard from Wang Jun that you guys went to Q City to watch a crosstalk performance." Wang Jun's grandfather didn't hide anything. "We sensed the aura of the mirror demon, so we chased after it." Mirror demon? Li Xiao suddenly recalled that a monastery master of the Clear Peace Monastery had died in the hands of the mirror demon. Wang Jun of Li's of soft ses of him of his SSSS. Li of A's S. If we hadn't arrived in time, he would have become their food. Li Xiao understood. No wonder. No wonder this father and son pair came chasing after that demon. They want to avenge Wang Jun. That mirror demon's ability is ordinary, but in the Tao of illusion, it is quite capable. Perhaps it was because grandfather Wang Jun was an ancient person in his past life. His words were also very scholarly. Was this an illusion? In this regard, Li Xiao was not inferior to anyone. Using illusions in front of her was simply displaying one's slight skill in front of an expert. Ah! Wang Jun suddenly let out an annoyed shriek, and the others couldn't help but look at him. However, he didn't seem to realize it. Instead, he muttered to himself, "My intuition is indeed very accurate. I've always felt that Xianxia was very familiar and gave me a very dangerous feeling. She is the mirror demon." Li Xiao was stunned for a moment before she retorted, "Impossible. She's not a monster. She's a real human." She still had this bit of confidence. No demon could hide from her eyes. "It's really her." Wang Jun's voice was a little aggrieved. Li Xiao's heart skipped a beat. Wait, if Xianxia was really the mirror demon, then everything could be linked together. It was very likely that she was the one behind the corpse poisoning incident in order to frame Wang Jun's elders. In addition, it was not a secret that she had dealings with Wang Jun's family. She could also be framed. The question was, how did Xianxia hide from her eyes? If it was a possession, it wasn't. She couldn't even see through a possession. Wang Jun's father said, at that time, the mirror demon was seriously injured by us and fled. Later, we heard that she was dead. I didn't expect her to still be alive. Lu Hao thought of something, and her eyes lit up. No, maybe she has already died once. Do you think she could be the mirror demon's reincarnation? If that was the case, it made sense. Of course, Li Xiao didn't see her original form. After all, she was reincarnated as a human. If her guess was correct, then the Qingping temple was, in a sense, very unlucky. They had made their biggest enemy the temple master, and they listened to her every word. If the previous temple master of Qingping temple knew about it, he would be so angry that he would turn into a corpse on the spot. However, all of this was just her guess. She needed to verify it. Li Xiao said to them, you guys stay here first. I will solve this matter. After coming out of the void mirror, Li Xiao used illusion to create a few zombies in the forest and strolled leisurely. A few minutes after the zombies appeared, Li Xiao received a call from Immortal Chen, saying that they had found traces of the zombies. Li Xiao's lips curled up. The zombies she created were already fighting with the other Taoist priests. Among them, this was the territory of Qingping Temple, so most of their Taoist priests came. With Li Xiao's current ability, the zombies she could create were not weak. These Taoist priests used all their skills, but they couldn't take them down. If it weren't for the fact that Li Xiao didn't want to hurt them and was just acting, these Taoist priests would have been bitten long ago. Of course, Xianxia was an exception. She was originally the focus of her hospitality. The three zombies surrounded her, blocking every exit she could take. Xianxia was caught off guard, and a black line appeared on her arm. The anger in her heart surged, making her anxious and angry. Where the hell did these zombies come from? Why didn't she notice it at all? Why didn't it come from the red zombie family? The most excessive thing was that the most powerful zombies were surrounding her and beating her up, which made her want to vomit blood. She didn't have any deep hatred with them. Could it be that they were sent by the red zombie family? She was distracted and her other hand was caught again. The pain from both hands almost made her unable to hold the sword in her hand. The other Taoist priests of Qingping Temple saw that she was in a critical situation and wanted to come over to help her. However, these zombies might have mutated. They were not afraid of lightning or fire and were very difficult to deal with. Being entangled by the zombies, they were really powerless. The corpse poison flared up, and the sword in Xianxia's hand fell to the ground. A zombie appeared behind her at lightning speed and was about to bite her neck. Xianxia's eyes flashed with determination. She couldn't sit still and wait for death. In the worst-case scenario, he would just kill everyone present when the time came. In the next second, a bronze mirror appeared in her body. With the reflection of the bronze mirror, her figure became illusory. Mirror demon. Xianxia's martial uncle's expression changed drastically when he saw the scene. He would never forget the appearance of that bronze mirror. His grandmaster had died under that bronze mirror. He stared at Xianxia. Why did a mirror demon appear in Xianxia's body? Some absurd conjecture emerged, making him feel cold all over. If it weren't for the fact that the zombies here were all transformed by Li Xiao and wouldn't really hurt people, he would have died long ago in his current uneasy state. Everyone looked at Xianxia. Xianxia smiled. Her smile was as gentle and amiable as they remembered, but the words she spat out were so cold and ruthless. Since you have all seen it, please die. She showed a pitiful expression. Don't worry, I will tell the people outside that you died to resist the zombies and protect the villagers. Perfected Chen frowned slightly. The charms on his body had almost been used up just now. He only hoped that Li Xiao could come as soon as possible. In the next moment, Li Xiao's clear voice sounded. You want to kill them? Did I allow it? Xianxia's expression changed. She turned her head abruptly and saw the disgusting figure in the air. She sneered and didn't even bother to hide it. A mere human. A human like you actually wants to cling to Lord Qinglong. Li Xiao? How did this scene turn into jealousy in a second? Xianxia indeed knew Songhai's true identity. Don't tell her that she made such a big scene just because of Songhai. Also, when did she cling to Songhai? Why didn't she know? Li Xiao chuckled. Even if you're a human now, it's not a problem to kill you. She snapped her fingers, and all the zombies at the scene instantly disappeared in front of her. The reason why she made these zombies was simply to force Xianxia to use her trump card. It turned out that this move was quite effective. Everyone was stunned, including Xianxia. Perfected Chen put down his staff and suddenly felt very at ease. As expected of Li Xiao, she took care of the zombies with a snap of her fingers. He didn't know what kind of spell this was. He could ask her for advice when the time came. Everyone thought that Li Xiao had used some kind of method to deal with the zombies, but they didn't expect that those zombies were just illusions. Xianxia pursed her lips, and the bronze mirror flew directly to Li Xiao. Compared to others, Li Xiao was the real big problem. She had seen the Great Void Mirror by chance in the past and even gained intelligence because of it. Her main body was affected by it and also had the ability to confuse people's minds. She seemed to see Li Xiao struggling in the illusion and couldn't help but smile complacently. In the next second, she felt that she had lost contact with her main body, and her eyes widened. She saw the bronze mirror fall into Li Xiao's hands, and then Li Xiao gently stroked it, and the bronze mirror shattered. She looked so relaxed, as if destroying the bronze mirror was as simple as patting the dust off her body. No, Xianxia wailed in pain. When the bronze mirror flew towards Li Xiao didn't see any illusions. Xianxia's illusions really couldn't confuse her. However, her illusions were somewhat similar to hers. It should be said that it was his imitation. This also made her curious. Where did Xianxia steal it from? With a thought, such an image appeared on the bronze mirror. The bright moon hanging high in the sky shone brightly. In the next second, the bright moon shattered into pieces and splashed everywhere. It was the Great Void Mirror. It was the Great Void Mirror that was damaged more than 700 years ago in order to create a world. One of the fragments fell into a graveyard. The bronze mirror buried in the graveyard was enlightened by the Great Void Mirror's aura, so it produced a trace of intelligence. After an unknown amount of time, a handsome figure appeared here. The bronze mirror reflected his unparalleled appearance. It was Songhai. His face was pale, but it didn't affect his elegant demeanor at all. He bent down, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. His smile was like a breeze blowing across the lake, and it also wrinkled the heart lake of the bronze mirror. He took away the fragment of the Great Void Mirror, and from beginning to end, he never looked at the bronze mirror. The image flashed again. After the bronze mirror became a spirit, it transformed into a human. Because of the illusions, ordinary Taoists and monks didn't find anything fishy about her. She wanted to become stronger and couldn't stand the slow progress of step-by-step cultivation. So she turned her attention to other monsters. She used illusions to trap them, find ways to kill them, and take out their maidens to consume. Her targets were all monsters with relatively low cultivation. In the process, her cultivation also advanced by leaps and bounds. In the end, she targeted a naive and simple zombie. But this time, she kicked an iron plate. She hit the small one, and the old one came. She was almost killed by the two red zombies, but in the end, she managed to escape by relying on her strong illusion technique. In order to prevent her injuries from spreading, she tried to steal the pills refined by the Qingping temple, but she was caught by the temple master at that time. In the end, the temple master died. She also paid the price of being annihilated and her soul was unstable. She decided to hide in Qingping temple and slowly recuperate from her injuries. No one would have thought that their greatest enemy would actually dare to stay in their territory to recuperate. 100 years later, the daughter of an abbey dean was about to be born. The mirror demon decided to reincarnate as his daughter, but she still retained her memories. After successfully becoming a human, she openly appeared on Hua Nation soil. She originally thought that she could rely on the legacy of her previous life to become the leader of the Xian sect with her extraordinary talent, until Li Xiao appeared. Li Xiao, who was younger than her, was already a great master of metaphysics in the eyes of many immortals. She was the next leader of the celestial sect of wonders. She was even Songhai's girlfriend. The mirror demon could not tolerate that a mere human could easily obtain everything she wanted. After she discovered the whereabouts of her enemy, a conspiracy was born. Li Xiao quickly looked through these memories. After knowing everything she needed to know, she did not hesitate to break the bronze mirror. No. Xianxia's face was pale. She spat out blood and her body was on the verge of collapsing. She was too greedy. She was unwilling to let go of the legacy of her previous life. Her body and soul were still bound together. This also caused her soul to be severely damaged after the bronze mirror was destroyed. She was like a candle in the wind, about to be extinguished at any time. Li Xiao's tone was cold. Speaking of which, the reason why you were able to gain intelligence in your previous life was because of my kindness. In this life, you repay kindness with ingratitude. It is only right that I take your life. Impossible. The mirror demon's eyes widened. At this moment, she saw a mirror like the moon appear behind Li Xiao. It was as if she saw the essence of the great path. The void mirror, she smiled bitterly. Li Xiao was actually the legendary divine artifact, the void mirror. At this moment, she lost all her strength to struggle. She could not compare at all. From the beginning to the end, they were not on the same level. She did not expect that the void mirror could be reincarnated. The bronze mirror that had turned into fragments was struck again by Li Xiao's 5 thunder technique. The mirror demon had done a lot of bad things in the past few hundred years. She was entangled in evil karma. Previously, she could use the body of a human to deceive the heavens. However, what should be settled will still be settled. In the end, the bronze mirror turned into powder under the heavenly thunder. Xianxia, who was connected to it by heart, also completely lost her breath. The people of Qingping Temple were all at a loss. All this happened too quickly. The Abbey Dean whom they respected and admired turned out to be their biggest enemy. There was nothing more ridiculous than this. If they used to trust Xianxia as much as they hated her now. Now that they saw her end up like this, they felt relieved but also some indescribable disappointment. Xianxia walked in front of her and stroked his well-maintained beard. Were those zombies ordered by her? Li Xiao nodded slightly. The place where the zombies were hiding was not far from Qingping Temple. She had already sent the message to the 3 generations of red zombie who were in the void mirror, asking them to bring those zombies. Xianxia looked down at Xianxia and shook his head. Why? Li Xiao said indifferently, it's probably for prestige. If Li Xiao hadn't come over, Xianxia would have taken out the prescription that could detoxify the corpse poison to save the other villagers. It could be imagined that her reputation would definitely be at its peak. And she could also shift the blame to her enemy, Red Zombie's family. Unfortunately, she missed the existence of her and Little Green, and instead made a wedding dress for them. The faces of the people of Qingping Temple were like a dye house. Their faces were about to be swollen. Whether others believed it or not, they still had to come forward to explain. Xianxia, who was the most senior, said awkwardly, we really didn't collude with them. We can't use this method. However, Xianxia was the temple master before, so her words were not convincing. His face was flushed with shame. Li Xiao glanced at them. The mirror demon can be said to be your enemy, and I don't believe that you would collude with her. As soon as she said this, the Taoist priests of Qingping Temple all looked at her with grateful eyes. They didn't expect Li Xiao to be willing to speak up for them at this time. You just don't have good eyesight. Li Xiao added, but this is a matter of strength. It's not your fault. Xianxia, although they were very sad, they really couldn't refute this. If they weren't blind, they wouldn't have not noticed anything wrong with Xianxia for more than 20 years. Instead, they let her become the temple master smoothly. Hey, is that a zombie? Xianxia originally wanted to change the topic. He had a good relationship with Xianxia, and he couldn't bear to see him being dragged down by Xianxia at such an old age. Suddenly, he saw the corpse aura coming from not far away, and his expression couldn't help but become solemn. Is there a fish that escaped the net? Li Xiao coughed and said, no, that's a helper I found. A few minutes later, they saw 3 zombies leading a dozen zombies like dumplings. Those zombies were only low-level zombies. Under their intimidation, they were very obedient. Grandpa Red Zombie said to Li Xiao, I didn't disappoint you. I found all the zombies in this mountain. They should be the ones who attacked the villagers during this period. We can let the villagers come forward to identify them later. He was a zombie, but his words and actions were no different from that of a human. He looked very amiable. In the eyes of others, they couldn't help but be a little surprised. Li Xiao looked at the zombies and frowned slightly. These zombies had obviously eaten fresh meat before, so there was a murderous aura on them. Xianxia said with emotion, I didn't expect you to know zombies. Li Xiao said, their family has an ID card. Issued by City God. They have always been law-abiding. If it weren't for the crosstalk performance, they wouldn't have come here. The people of Qingping Temple were a little embarrassed. Li Xiao's words were obviously for them to hear. They had been talking about killing demons before, but they couldn't even tell whether the temple master was a human or a ghost. They were originally full of confidence that they could solve this matter by themselves, but in the end, it was thanks to the zombies. Xianxia finally walked to Grandpa Red Zombie and said, thank you for your help. After thanking him, he looked at Li Xiao and said, you're right. There are good and bad people in this world. Demons are also divided into good and bad. Previously, they were too stubborn and obstinate. After Xianxia, who was the most senior person, made a demonstration, the other Taoists also thanked them. Li Xiao wasn't the kind of person who wouldn't let go of others. It was okay to know that they were wrong and change. In the end, the Taoists of Qingping Temple took the zombies down the mountain to let the villagers identify them. Then they personally purified them. Just like that, the zombie incident that had caused a huge uproar came to an end. When the villagers' bodies were almost recovered, Li Xiao also took Little Green home. Songhai personally came to the airport to pick her up. Li Xiao looked at him and conjured a bronze mirror. She said in a subtle tone, what do you think of this bronze mirror? That mirror demon was dead set on Songhai. She had always wanted to pursue Songhai, but unfortunately, she didn't have the chance. Songhai looked at the bronze mirror seriously. After a while, he asked, do you like this style? That's good. I'll make a magic weapon and make it into this style for you. Li Xiao's mouth twitched. She hurriedly said, no need. If she had to look at this bronze mirror every day, she would die of annoyance. If the mirror demon knew that Songhai had no memory of her in the underworld, she would probably die of anger. She snorted and couldn't help but pinched Songhai's face. I find that you're just like Tang Seng's meat. Songhai blinked with an innocent face. Do you want to eat my meat? Other than this, he couldn't think of any other reason. Li Xiao dragged her words. Sometimes I do. After all, Songhai was still very beautiful. Songhai's expression became serious. Then I'll cut off a piece. He furrowed his brows as if he was thinking about which part of the body to cut off. Li Xiao? Was he so hardcore? Li Xiao realized that some jokes really shouldn't be made casually. For example, Songhai was easily taken seriously. No, I don't want to eat dragon meat. She quickly expressed, I was just joking. How should she put it? Although she was quite curious about the legendary taste of dragon liver and phoenix marrow, it was a different matter to cut meat from Songhai. Oh. Songhai looked a little dejected. Li Xiao's mouth twitched. He actually felt regretful. What's wrong with him? Songhai looked straight at her. You've always been helping me. I also want to do something for you. Li Xiao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She unconsciously softened her voice. You've already helped me a lot. He had clearly done a lot for Li Xiao, but he always neglected his own efforts and only remembered what Li Xiao had done for him. However, this kind of Songhai was also very cute. And this cute side of him was only shown in front of her. This must be true love, she was once again certain of this. She said in a casual tone, let's find a time to have a meal with my mom. How about that? Okay. Songhai nodded. His expression was very calm. Li Xiao stared at him silently. After a while, she realized with some frustration that Songhai really didn't understand the meaning of her words just now. She was just inviting him back to meet her parents. She looked up at the sky speechlessly. Forget it. She could only endure her own boyfriend, she could only explain in detail. After all, we're going to be dating. We have to make it clear in front of your parents. Eh? Song Hai's ears instantly turned red. He even felt that he didn't know where to place his hands. It was as if brilliant fireworks were exploding in his head. After a long while, he finally found his voice from beyond the clouds. Then should I prepare a greeting gift? Li Xiao smirked. No need. Just bring your men with you. My mother is very open-minded. Her mother had a good impression of Song Hai and often told Li Xiao not to bully Song Hai. In all honesty, was Li Xiao that kind of person? She only bullied him once in a while. What's more, it's not called bullying between couples, it's called love. Okay. Song Hai was still calm. This made Li Xiao a little disappointed. She thought she could see Song Hai's flustered appearance. TSK, what a pity. She turned her head and looked out of the window. Her gaze froze. Suddenly, a gorgeous rainbow appeared in the clear sky. One after another, they filled the sky. Wait, it's a sunny day, and it hasn't rained for the past few days. Where did the rainbow come from? And there were so many of them, if she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she would have suspected that these rainbows were drawn by someone. Li Xiao seemed to have thought of something. She turned her head abruptly and looked at Song Hai, who was still calm. Song Hai. Yeah. Did you make the rainbows outside? Song Hai blinked. When his long eyelashes drooped down, they carried a natural sense of innocence. Yeah. Li Xiao was speechless. Wasn't he too passionate? If she hadn't seen these rainbows, she wouldn't have known that he was so excited and happy. As a Qing Long, when his emotions fluctuated, it would inevitably affect the surrounding weather. You're so happy just to meet the parents. If I do something else, won't you be even more exaggerated? In the next second, she leaned close to him and planted a kiss on his cheek that was as thin as a cicada's wing. This kiss was very light, but it still succeeded in making Song Hai explode. The next second, a strong wind blew. Li Xiao's expression changed. Wait, take it easy. Although Li Xiao said that he didn't need to bring anything when meeting the parents, Song Hai certainly couldn't be so casual. When he returned to his own territory, he called his subordinates over with a serious face. Lu Haixing saw his serious expression and couldn't help but become nervous. He swallowed his saliva. Boss, did something big happen again? Back then, so many dragon veins had been destroyed, but he had never seen his boss show such an expression. It was clear that the situation this time was really serious. Was a comet about to hit Earth? Or was the enchantment broken? The other demons were also on guard. They held their breaths and waited for Song Hai to speak. Song Hai showed a dazed expression. Xiao Xiao, she invited me back to have dinner with her mother. Lu Haixing had more contact with human affairs, so he was more sensitive than other demons when it came to interpersonal relationships. He immediately reacted and said in surprise, "Are you going to meet the parents?" It wasn't easy. His boss had finally become an official. The whole world was celebrating. The orange cat spirit recalled that Li Xiao was the sparrow spirit's parent who liked to strike people with lightning. He couldn't help but tremble. As expected of his boss, he was bold. He didn't dare to provoke such a fierce girl. Lu Haixing looked even more nervous than Song Hai. It's the first time I'm meeting the parents in the human world. I have to prepare a gift. Song Hai asked, what kind of gift do you need? LV Haixing said, of course we need fruits. Then see what Mrs. Su likes and cater to her preferences. Song Hai thought for a moment and said, she likes cosmetics. He had heard from Li Xiao that the best part of the ointment produced by Little Green Company was for her mother. Lu Haixing smiled. Rather than saying that she likes cosmetics, it's better to say that she wants to retain her youth. The desire for eternal youth was engraved in the bones of humans. Perhaps it was because they couldn't retain their youth. Unlike demons, as long as they wanted to, they could always look young. Song Hai had an idea after being reminded. The orange cat spirit reminded him, Miss Li's family includes not only her mother, but also the sparrow spirit and the snake spirit. So we should also prepare gifts for them. Yes, you're right. He also thought of the manager, Yuan. In Li Xiao's heart, he should be considered her family. As the saying goes, 3 heads are better than zhuge liang. With the help of a group of subordinates, Song Hai finally settled the gift matter. Li Xiao's meeting with the parents was set for October 12. She was at home chatting with her mother and Yuan, waiting for Song Hai to come. Yuan's main topic of conversation revolved around Xiaolong Songlong. This child is really talented. I arranged a variety show for him 2 weeks ago. The director called me and kept praising him for his sense of variety. When it's broadcasted next week, maybe he'll become a hit. Li Xiao's lips curled up. That's good. She instructed, this child is quite naive. Auntie, please take care of him. Don't let him fall into other people's trap. If Song Long appeared out of nowhere, he would definitely touch other people's cake. Many people in the entertainment industry had a low bottom line. Li Xiao was worried that Song Long wouldn't realize that he was at a disadvantage. Yuan seemed to have thought of something and couldn't help but laugh. You really don't have to worry about that. Those who tried to trip him up all met with misfortune. No one dares to provoke him. Li Xiao was stunned for a moment. She could understand now. As the only 2 dragons left in this land, most of the luck of the dragon race was concentrated on Song Hai, but a small part of it was also on Song Long. Under such circumstances, although Song Long couldn't compare to Song Hai, he could still be called the son of luck. In addition, the dragon itself was a symbol of China, so this idea was deeply rooted in people's hearts. Coupled with the blessing of faith, it was no wonder that those people met with misfortune. Now, she could more or less feel relieved. 15 minutes before 9 o'clock p.m., the doorbell rang. Li Xiao had already sensed Song Hai's aura. I'll open the door. When she opened the door, she saw Song Hai in a green robe. She didn't know what material the clothes he was wearing were made of, but it looked as if they were made from the water of a lake. There was an indescribable elegance about him. Coupled with his perfect facial features, he looked like an immortal who had walked straight out of a painting. No, he was an immortal. Come in. Li Xiao moved aside and let Song Hai in. Su Manqin's eyes lit up when she saw Song Hai. She didn't even notice Song Hai's empty hands. What material is this robe made of? She had never seen it before. She only felt that when he walked, there seemed to be ripples. It was a beauty that couldn't be described with any fancy language. Song Hai was stunned for a moment and said, it's made of the water of the heavenly river. Su Manqin was speechless. Water could be used to make cloth? Was he joking? And the heavenly river? Don't tell me it's the Milky Way in the sky. Li Xiao knew very well that Song Hai was telling the truth. Song Hai said seriously, if you like, I have 2 bolts of cloth of other colors here. I can give them to you. However, apart from being beautiful and spotless, this robe didn't have any other advantages. It couldn't be fireproof or resist spells. Therefore, Song Hai would rather use a scale to make the robe for Li Xiao than to use this cloth. Su Manqin couldn't help but look at her daughter. She was a little confused. The next second, she saw Song Hai take out a piece of cloth from thin air. The cloth was made of the same material as his robe. It was a brilliant silver color, like water. Looking at it, it was as if a Milky Way was slowly appearing in front of her. Su Manqin almost screamed. Yuan was already dumbfounded. Only Little Green and Sparrow Spirit, who knew Song Hai's identity, were very calm. When Su Manqin took the cloth, she felt as if she was stepping on clouds. Her whole body was light as a feather. The cloth was unexpectedly light, as if it was weightless. When it brushed past her, it was extremely smooth. In the past, Su Manqin's impression of Song Hai was that he was just a metaphysical master that her daughter was dating. Now, this impression was completely overturned. Would an ordinary metaphysical master be able to take out such a thing? Would an ordinary metaphysical master be able to take something out of thin air? She didn't even dare to show off this cloth. Li Xiao was still calm. In any case, her mother would find out about Song Hai's identity sooner or later. It didn't matter if it was a day earlier or a day later. Yuan was so envious that she couldn't help but say, what about me? Do I have a gift? Xiao also has to call me godmother. She was really getting more and more curious about Song Hai's identity. Yes. Songhai took out 2 bottles of pills with a serious expression. This is for you and Auntie Sue. After taking it, you'll be able to retain your youth. Yuan exclaimed, it's so magical? Really? Although she saw Songhai's unusual method just now, she still didn't believe it. How many women dreamed of regaining their youth? Songhai said, yes, this was refined by Taisheng Laojun. That's what he said. At that time, Taisheng Laojun gave him a few bottles, saying that he could give it to the girl he liked in the future. Li Xiao didn't need this thing, so Songhai used it to please her parents. Su Manqin felt that she must have misheard. Otherwise, why would she hear the name Taisheng Laojun? Wasn't this the immortal in the myths? The silence spread silently. Li Xiao looked at the petrified mother and Ai Wen with some pity and said, yes, it's the Taisheng Laojun in your imagination. She didn't lie to anyone. Su Manqin calmed her fluctuating emotions and gave Songhai a graceful smile. Excuse me, I'll be back later. Then she pulled Li Xiao back to the room to interrogate her. Yuan also left, leaving the reception to Li Kei and Little Green. After entering the room, Su Manqin asked Li Xiao in a low voice, tell me honestly, what is Songhai's identity? Could an ordinary person take out that kind of cloth? Could they casually take out pills refined by Taisheng Laojun? If she didn't know Li Xiao's personality, she would have suspected that Li Xiao and Songhai had conspired to deceive him. Yuan's voice was illusory. Tell me honestly, your mother and I are people who have seen the world. We can take it. Li Xiao cursed in her heart. Their expressions didn't look like people who could take it. She deliberated and replied, do you still remember the trending news from a while ago? The Qing Long who occupied the island? Su Manqin's breathing unconsciously became rapid. You mean, that conjecture was so shocking that it shocked her mind into a blank. Li Xiao said, Songhai is Qing Long. Yuan murmured, the god of the east who represents Taihao. She never thought that a legendary figure would actually appear by her side and become Li Xiao's boyfriend. It was as if her dream had been reflected into reality. She stared at Li Xiao, trying to see if she was joking. However, Li Xiao's expression was very serious. So immortals really exist? Even though Su Manqin had experienced great storms and waves, she still couldn't come back to her senses. I see, she looked at her daughter. No wonder her daughter suddenly had such powerful abilities. It was probably Songhai who taught her. If they were immortals, then everything could be explained. Li Xiao didn't know that her mother had already thought of a reasonable excuse for her. For a moment, Su Manqin and Yuan didn't know how to face Songhai. Although Songhai looked well-behaved in front of Li Xiao, he was a real god. It made it difficult for them to act like mothers-in-law. Li Xiao took in their expressions and couldn't help but smile. Alright, don't think too much about it. Just keep the same attitude as before. Su Manqin couldn't help but poke her daughter's forehead. Do you think everyone is as heartless as you? She looked at Li Xiao suspiciously. You're not hiding anything from me, right? Li Xiao remembered his identity as a great void mirror cultivator and felt a little embarrassed, but he still said righteously, no. Definitely not in this lifetime. As for being a great void mirror cultivator, that was a matter of her previous life. She thought for a moment and added that Little Green and Li Kei are actually not humans. One is a snake demon, the other is a sparrow demon. With the shock of Songhai's identity, it wasn't a big deal that Little Green and Li Kei were demons. After all, they often dealt with these two people and were very clear about their personalities. At most, they just sighed with emotion. After this shock, Su Manqin and Yuan couldn't help but become excited. They looked at the pill in their hands with shining eyes. This was a pill refined by the legendary Taisheng Laojun. Li Xiao pondered for a moment and said, I don't know if your bodies can withstand it. Take a little first. Okay. Which woman didn't want to regain her youth? Su Manqin and Yuan couldn't wait to try it. Li Xiao poured out one of the pills and divided it into 4 pieces. Su Manqin and Yuan each took a quarter. They quickly felt their bodies heat up. A wave of heat surged through their limbs and white smoke rose around them. After a while, Su Manqin and Yuan's skin exuded black filth, but their bodies also felt unprecedentedly relaxed. Their heavy limbs were much lighter, as if they had returned to their youthful state. The two of them hurriedly took a bath and washed away the filth on their bodies. Those black things were actually the toxins and impurities in their bodies. 20 minutes later, Xianxia and Yuan reappeared in front of Li Xiao. Both of them looked much younger. Xianxia was already considered a very well-maintained person among her peers. She looked to be in her early 30s, but it was inevitable that there would be traces of age, such as fine lines at the corners of her eyes and gradually loosening skin. But now, her skin was tight and the fine lines had disappeared. Her entire state had indeed returned to when she was in her 20s. She couldn't help but be overjoyed. She couldn't help but take out a mirror and look at herself endlessly. Li Xiao had also asked Xianxia about the pill. If one took the entire pill, not only would it extend one's lifespan, it would also allow one to maintain their youthful appearance. She thought that she could let her mother take it bit by bit. There was no rush. After being overjoyed, Xianxia wanted to give the pill to her daughter. This was the downside of dating a deity. An immortal boyfriend would give a person a lot of pressure. Li Xiao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She refused. No need, Mom. The cultivation technique I'm practicing has this effect. Really? When she said this, Xianxia didn't say anything. She also realized that her daughter should be considered a person from another world. She couldn't use mortal rules to ask her to do things. Right now, she was completely looking at Xianxia like a mother-in-law looking at her son-in-law. The more she looked at him, the more satisfied she was. Under these circumstances, this meeting of the parents ended in an exceptionally amiable atmosphere. If it were someone else, after their daughter brought home a boyfriend, they would inevitably urge her to get married. But when it came to Xianxia and Li Xiao, no one urged them. Li Xiao even felt that even if she didn't get married for the rest of her life, her mother wouldn't have any reaction. She was very satisfied with her current status. She felt that maintaining the status quo was good enough. Every day, she would either cultivate or go on dates with Xianxia. She was living a happy life. When Li Xiao remembered that she still had a disciple, Sun Rue, she ran to see Sun Rue. Only then did she realize that there were suddenly many pilgrims in the Taoist temple. One had to know that usually, there might not even be 10 pilgrims in a month in Yinshaoguan. It was extremely cold and empty. Now that there were so many people coming and going, there was a lot more liveliness. Li Xiao saw this and couldn't help but feel puzzled. Sun Rue was already quite stylish now. Li Xiao wasn't stingy with giving him the yellow millet fruit so that he could experience the experience of a year in a dream. Under the circumstances of using cheats, Sun Rue's cultivation also improved. Coupled with the Taishu cultivation technique, his passerby face now wore a Taoist robe and looked somewhat sage-like. Li Xiao walked into the Taoist temple and saw many pilgrims kneeling and praying devoutly. After they finished praying, they took out a bottle and filled it with well water. Then, they carefully carried the water back. What were these people doing? Li Xiao went directly to Sun Rue. Sun Rue was entertaining an elderly pilgrim. Put this talisman under your pillow. It can stop your grandson from having nightmares. The old woman held the talisman with a cherished expression. Thank you, Taoist priest. Sun Rue raised his head. When he saw Li Xiao, he immediately stood up from his chair. Master. Li Xiao was puzzled. Did you advertise? Why are there so many people here? She also realized that there were many Taoist priests helping to entertain the pilgrims in the Taoist temple. Sun Rue touched his head and said, I wanted to talk to you about this some time ago, but I couldn't get through to you. Li Xiao said, I was in seclusion a few days ago. Every time she cultivated, it would be at least a week. During this process, she would usually turn off her phone. Sun Rue said, the well in our Taoist temple is very sweet. Many pilgrims said that after drinking it, they felt very energetic and their limbs were strong. That's why they came here one by one to offer incense and get a bottle of water. Originally, I didn't think it was a big deal to get some water, but I saw some of them bring several big buckets over. It was said that some people were selling the water, so I told them that each person could only get 500 milliliters a day. I originally wanted to recruit a few people as assistants, but the Taoist priests of Qingping Temple knew that I was short of people, so they sent some disciples to help me. Li Xiao also got a basin of water and drank it. It was indeed sweeter than ordinary water and contained a little spiritual power. Li Xiao naturally didn't care about this little bit of spiritual power. But for ordinary people, it was enough to make them scramble for it. She could guess the reason. It was mostly because of her and Songhai. Songhai was Qinglong, so it could more or less change the surrounding feng shui. After Li Xiao took back the void mirror, the immortal origin mountain also became more and more rich in spiritual power because of her, just like Misty Cloud Mountain. Li Xiao nodded slightly. Your arrangement is good. Sun Rui didn't intend to use the well water to sell for money. He let them get it for free. In fact, he was very happy to be able to carry forward Yunxiao Guan. As for whether or not someone would steal the water, he wasn't worried about this problem. There were several ghosts guarding the Taoist temple, and there were several monsters living next door. If a thief came, they would definitely have to bear the consequences. Li Xiao didn't have much ambition, but seeing her disciple so happy, she let him do as he wished. Li Xiao didn't take this matter to heart. But when the abnormality of this well spread, some people had ideas about the well water. Li Xiao looked at her cousin Su Shufeng, who ran in front of her to inform her, and said in a subtle tone, "Are you sure that third master's son wants to buy this well?" Su Shufeng nodded and said, "This person came from the capital. It is said that he is the most favored in his family. He kept saying that he wanted to buy it and open a tea house here." Su Shufeng was a loyal person and had a good reputation in the circle. When someone heard this news, they took the initiative to tell him. Li Xiao raised her eyebrows and said lightly, "Since his family doesn't know how to teach their children well, I don't mind helping them." She showed a bright smile. Since they dared to have ideas about her things, they shouldn't blame her for being rude. Li Xiao and Su Shufeng were talking about the third master Sunday. His original name was Sun Yi, and he ranked third in the family. Because he was the same as his great-grandfather, he was spoiled by his elders since he was a child. In addition to his family background, it could be said that everything went smoothly. He had never suffered a loss, so he developed a bad habit of being a playboy. Of course, he was not a playboy. If he could not afford to offend someone, he would never take the initiative to provoke them. Sun Yi had also investigated Li Xiao. He knew that she was the daughter of Lin Namju and Su Manqin. She also opened a company and was a metaphysical master. But he did not take this identity to heart. Even some metaphysics masters had to be respectful in front of a second-generation official like him. Besides, he was not going to take the well by force. He was going to spend money to buy it. He thought that compared to others, he was already very generous. If the other party was sensible and took the initiative to give the well to him, he could go back and help them. Li Zhao's company would not go astray. "Third master, you have good taste. We originally thought that we could package the well water into longevity water and sell it, but how can it be more elegant than opening a tea house?" "That's right. If we do this business, we'll be able to make huge profits." Xianxia listened to the flattery of his friends, and the corners of his mouth almost reached his eyebrows. He tried his best to pretend as if nothing had happened. "I also thought of this idea in a flash of inspiration." Under their boasting, Sun Yi seemed to see the scene of many people holding money and asking for a cup of tea. He could not help but feel complacent. In the future, his two brothers could not say that he was ignorant and incompetent. In their words, the well was already a sure thing. Suddenly, a Mr. Wang said, "Speaking of Yunxiao Guan, Li Xiao is not only a metaphysical master, but also a rare beauty." Such a beauty fell in love with a boy toy. Sun Yi suddenly became interested. "Really? Is she really beautiful?" He was most interested in beautiful girls. Someone immediately searched for Li Xiao and showed her photo to Sun Yi. In the photo, Li Xiao's skin was as white as snow, her eyes were bright, and her teeth were white. Her soul-stirring beauty made people's hearts race. This happened to be Sun Yi's favorite type. Xianxia was suddenly fascinated. Compared with Li Xiao, the girlfriends he had before were all mediocre. He was immediately moved. He decided to turn his thoughts into action. He was determined to win over Li Xiao. Sun Yi's fighting spirit was high, and he was not in the mood to continue chatting with these people. He decided to go back and properly investigate the matter between Li Xiao and her boyfriend, and then ponder over a plan to pursue the beauty. After Sun Yi left, Mr. Zhang clinked his glass with Mr. Wang, who had just taken the initiative to mention Li Xiao. You really know how to divert trouble. The pot-bellied CEO Wang played dumb. What are you talking about? I don't understand. He walked to the window and looked at Xianxia's back as he left. He sneered in his heart. This third master's son, who came from the capital, was really unscrupulous. He had just arrived here, but he had already extorted several sums of money from them. Mr. Wang was usually the most stingy and greedy for money. He had long held a grudge against him, but he did not dare to offend him and still had to flatter him. In addition, he had wanted to matchmake his son and Li Xiao, but Li Xiao had rejected him without hesitation. Only then did he mention the miraculous well water in Yunxiaoguan, which made the third master from the capital restless. Now, he deliberately mentioned Li Xiao's beauty, which successfully moved him. With Li Xiao's character, he was afraid that she would not give up so easily. A metaphysics master was not so easy to provoke. However, the family behind Sun Yi was also not to be underestimated. When the time came, no matter who won or lost, they would inevitably suffer a great loss. He only needed to watch from the sidelines. Others might be thinking the same thing as him. Although Li Namju had fallen, Li Xiao was still there and had become a rising star in this circle. Compared to Li Namju, she posed a greater threat. Not only did she have outstanding foresight, but her company was also thriving. She also had a good relationship with the government. This was the real big problem. These old foxes did not want to get a share of the pie, but they did not dare to offend Li Xiao. Therefore, they followed CEO Wang and became the ones who added fuel to the fire. Sun Yi quickly contacted his grandmother, who loved him the most. He told her that he had turned over a new leaf and had fallen in love with a very good girl. He wanted to ask for her support. Old Madame Sun had always loved this grandson of hers. After looking at the information, she found that her grandson's current sweetheart was not like those messy internet celebrities, but a fair, rich, and beautiful woman with a good reputation. Naturally, she was very willing. As for Li Xiao's opinion, she did not take it to heart. For a family like theirs to fall in love with Li Xiao, it was the result of Li Xiao's several lifetimes of hard work. Who knew how many people wanted to climb up the Sun family but had no way? With her support, Sun Yi could do even more things. He sent someone to buy the well while he went to buy expensive jewelry. His way of wooing people was nothing more than giving them sky-high gifts. With his identity, he was very confident before. However, with Li Xiao, he was stuck at the first step. He could not even see Li Xiao in person. He had been to Yunxiaoguan several times and had even tasted the well water. It could be said that he was very familiar with it. However, this time, he wandered around Xianyuan Mountain for 2 hours instead of half an hour by car. He still could not see the shadow of the Taoist temple. Not to mention the Taoist temple, he did not see a single person on the road. After passing by the same pavilion again, Sun Yi finally understood what was going on. He had encountered the legendary ghost labyrinth. He got out of his luxury car and pondered about how to break this ghost labyrinth. Because it was broad daylight and he had a lot of amulets on his body, Sun Yi wasn't afraid at all. He also felt that the other party would at most give him a hard time and would not dare to kill him. However, not long after he got out of the car, thunder rumbled in the clear sky. It was like a huge lightning bolt that struck his luxury car that was worth millions. The body of the car caught on fire and started burning. Sun Yi, who was on the phone, was shocked. His sports car. Sun Yi's face was dark. He did not think that his luck was so bad. He had just come up the mountain and not only did he encounter a ghost labyrinth, but his car was also struck by lightning. His hot head seemed to have been doused with cold water and calmed down. Someone must be targeting him. He immediately thought of Songhai, who was said to be a master of metaphysics. Sun Yi could not take it lying down after being bullied. He was prepared to call all the metaphysics masters he knew to come to S City, but he realized that his phone had no signal at all in this lousy place. His sports car was also destroyed. This meant that he could only rely on his own 2 feet to walk. However, no matter how he walked, he could not get out of this circle. He was trapped inside, hungry and thirsty. Even the fearless Xianxia couldn't help but tremble in fear for a moment. During this period of time, there were many pilgrims on the mountain, but he felt that the mountain was so quiet. He could not even hear the sound of insects, let alone people. It was as if all sound had been deprived, which made his hair stand on end. For hours later, he still could not get out of this strange circle and could not contact the outside world. He panicked and fainted. When Sun Yu woke up, he realized that it was already night. Moreover, he was not on Immortal Origin Mountain, but at the foot of the mountain. The night wind blew and he could not help but sneeze from the cold. He turned on his phone again. This time, there was finally signal. Sun Yu hurriedly called someone to pick him up. When he got home, he kept sneezing and had a runny nose because he had caught a cold. Sun Yu had never suffered such a loss in his life. He directly put the blame on Songhai and was so angry that he wanted to stomp his feet. It must be because those people did not keep their mouths shut. The news that he wanted to pursue Li Xiao spread, so Li Xiao's boyfriend took revenge. After all, this person was also a metaphysics master. It was too easy to make him suffer. He did not suspect Li Xiao. Ordinary people knew who to choose between a second-generation official like him and Songhai, who had no background. Due to the fact that his family had recruited a few metaphysics heavenly masters, those so-called masters also respectfully addressed Sun Yi as three-leaf when facing him. As a result, Sun Yi was not very respectful towards them and could not help but look down on them. While he was recuperating, Songhai's information was also sent to Sun Yi. Sun Yi was just a playboy. Naturally, he could not find out Songhai's true identity. On the surface, Songhai was just an ordinary metaphysics master. He had a younger brother who was in primary school. That younger brother had also entered the entertainment industry. The variety show he recorded had been broadcast. With his appearance and personality, he had fiercely attracted a wave of fans. Sun Yi looked down on Songhai more and more. Not only did this person live off his girlfriend, but he also lived off his younger brother. He simply looked down on him. Coincidentally, there was a big news some time ago. There was a parent who made his model child work more than 10 hours a day and often beat and scold him. When the news came out, the comments below were all one-sided, condemning the parent who ate his child's flesh and blood. Sun Yi immediately had an idea. He felt that a man like Songhai who lived off his girlfriend should help him publicize and let his reputation be ruined. When Li Xiao found out about this, she would definitely break up with this man. With snot still dripping from his nose, he called a few of his friends and asked them for help. His friends checked and found that the person Sun Yi wanted to punish did not have any background, so they helped him and bought a wave of trending searches. Soon, Songhai who lived off his girlfriend quietly climbed to the top of the trending searches. Since Song Long's name was mentioned on the marketing account, Song Long's fans were the first to notice. After Song Long appeared on the variety show, the number of fans increased by 1 million, most of which were mother fans. These mother fans clicked on the article and were so angry that their hands trembled. Their baby was too pitiful. At such a young age, he was as busy as a top. He was so tired that he fell asleep on set. And the reason he worked so hard was to support his brother, who lived off a woman. His brother was Li Xiao's boyfriend. Both his brother and his girlfriend lived off him. Hence, they ran to Song Long's Weibo and felt sorry for him. Poor baby Long Long. It's so sad to have such a blood-sucking brother. How can Songhai be so shameless? Our Long Long is only 6 years old and has more work than an adult. This blood-sucking is too much. I beg the country to take custody of Songhai. Li Xiao's taste is too bad. There are so many good men in the world, but she chose this one. Yuan immediately noticed the aggressive public opinion. She did not believe that there was no one behind this. Her only thought was, which idiot dared to slander Songhai? She felt that she did not need to do anything. Those who added fuel to the fire would be arranged clearly. After all, the internet was illegal. Moreover, after Li Qianqing's incident, the country paid more attention to internet security. These people were really digging their own graves. She also notified Song Long and asked him to post on Weibo to clarify the matter. Song Long was on the show when he received a call from Yuan. He immediately went online to take a look. At first, he could not help but laugh when he saw that everyone was talking about Songhai. That's right, Songhai was a big bad guy. Only now did he realize that his life was full. He might not even be able to see Li Xiao once a month. At that time, he did not realize it and happily came to be a star. However, when he saw that everyone was scolding Songhai, he was unhappy. What right did these people have to scold Songhai? What right did they have to scold him? He was the one who wanted to become a celebrity to earn money. Songhai had never asked him for money, although Songlong was not convinced by Songhai. He knew very well that if Songhai had not brought him out, he would have been in a deep sleep for a long time. Although he hadn't grown up yet, he was still a dragon after all. When he was angry, his dragons might unconsciously spread out, making everyone present feel as if there was a huge rock weighing 1,000 kilograms on their chests. Songlong was oblivious to it. He quickly logged into his account and typed furiously, venting his anger. My brother treats me very well. I wanted to be a superstar, so I asked him to arrange it for me. After he quickly posted this on Weibo, he thought for a moment and took out his bank card. He logged into the platform and took a screenshot of his balance. Then, he posted it with a line of words, I keep all the money I earn for myself. Only I know the password. In the future, only Li Xiao will know it. He took the opportunity to smuggle in some private goods. That's right. He would not share the money he earned with Songhai. If he wanted to give it, he would give it to Li Xiao. After he sent this message, he called Li Xiao to ask for credit. He expressed that he had forgiven the past and spoke up for Songhai. That was awesome. Songlong was at the peak of his popularity. Many fans flocked to his Weibo post. When they saw the first post of the day, the mother fans wondered if Songlong had been coaxed by Songhai, so he spoke up for him. When they saw the second post, everyone was speechless. I counted. There's a total of 8 digits. Okay, I believe that my son is really not short of money. Sob sob sob. Mom is relieved. Long Long's proud look is so cute. Let me hug you. Long Long, although you're already very good at earning money, you're still far from Li Xiao. What you earn is probably just Li Xiao's pocket money. Am I the only one who thinks that Songhai is pitiful? His own brother likes his girlfriend more and is even prepared to give his money to his girlfriend. Pitiful? Songhai is still the most pitiful. Unscrupulous marketing accounts are stirring up trouble again. They must be trying to drive a wedge between the brothers. Can't these trashy marketing accounts let our Long Long off? He's just a baby. I hereby announce that these marketing accounts are dead. After Songlong's statement, other than a few people who deliberately stirred up trouble, no one continued to scold Songhai for sucking their brother's blood. Xianxia, who was recuperating at home, was furious when he saw the reversal of public opinion. What made him even angrier was that when he refreshed the page, many of the marketing accounts that he had bribed directly exploded. Could it be that Li Xiao had bribed them with money? Xianxia could not help but think so. He was even more unconvinced in his heart. He was just a good-looking gigolo, but Li Xiao treated him so well. He made another call and vented his anger, asking them to continue buying more ghostwriters. Halfway through the call, the doorbell rang. Xianxia was now living in a house in S City, which was given to him by a company's CEO who had a favor to ask of him. Could it be the doctor who came to check on him? Xianxia thought so and went to open the door. The next second, cold handcuffs were directly cuffed on his hands. Xianxia's expression changed drastically. Wait, what are you doing? Do you know who I am? His voice was filled with anger and fear. He thought for a moment. He did not offend anyone he could not afford to offend. Why were they here to arrest him? Was the mastermind not afraid of the Sun family's revenge? The leader said coldly, you are suspected of endangering national security. Please come with us. He said please, but his actions were very firm. Xianxia was dumbfounded. I didn't. No matter what, he knew in his heart that he should not touch things that he should not touch and cause trouble for his family. This was also the reason why he was still doted on by his family all these years, even though he had made many small mistakes. Endangering national security was a serious crime. Even if there was water in his brain, he would not take the initiative to commit it. Is there a misunderstanding here? His heart was burning with anxiety. The leader's face darkened as he took him away. They had already grasped the matter of Xianxia bribing people to defame Songhai. As the Qinglong, Songhai could even affect the luck of China. Sun Yi was in a hurry to defame him. This was no different from harming the Hua nation. Even Xianxia's family could not protect him. Not to mention, Xianxia was so unscrupulous because he had the Sun family as his backing. This time, the Sun family would probably be implicated. He looked at Xianxia, who was still confused, and couldn't help but shake his head in his heart. That was why children still had to be taught well. Otherwise, the entire family would be implicated if they raised a descendant like Xianxia. As for the Sun family in the capital, they would probably receive this news soon. By the time Li Xiao found out about this, the posts about Songhai on the internet had already been deleted completely. There was not even a trace left. Many of the marketing accounts involved were said to have been invited for tea. After all, when the state organs took action, they were quite swift and decisive. Minister Wang, who was often in contact with Li Xiao, also called her and said that this matter would be dealt with properly and give them an explanation. In the past few days, Minister Wang had also found out that Sun Yi had tried to buy the well in Li Xiaoguan. Li Xiao sighed and said, "You guys acted too fast and caused me to lose the opportunity to become rich." Minister Wang was silent for a while before asking, "What were you going to do with Xianxia?" Li Xiao said lightly, "Let him go around like a ghost. When the Sun family is willing to pay the money to redeem him, then let him go." This matter was originally the Sun family's fault. Li Xiao was really not afraid of them. If they really pissed her off, she would definitely dig out the secrets of the Sun family's ancestors and make them suffer. Minister Wang also told her one thing. Xianxia did this because he was too confident in his family's power. On the other hand, it was because he was instigated by others. The list of people who instigated him was also listed. Li Xiao directly remembered it in her heart. These people's lives were too smooth, so they wanted to make trouble for others. Then she would find something for them to do. First of all, these companies were all blacklisted by her. Second, she sent a nightmare talisman to each of them so that as long as they closed their eyes, they would have nightmares. Li Xiao's curse could not be lifted even if they went to find a powerful master. Besides, Li Xiao had a good relationship with many Taoist temples. Those Taoist masters would naturally refuse the request to lift the curse if they asked a little about this matter. They would enjoy a month of nightmares. Among them, President Wang, who contributed the most, was directly doubled by Li Xiao to give him 2 months of nightmares. When President Wang heard that Xianxia was missing and saw that Li Xiao was calm, he began to feel uneasy. Then, several mistakes appeared in his company and he was even interviewed by the tax department. President Wang was old and shrewd. How could he not see that someone was messing with him? Without a doubt, it was Li Xiao. He did not expect that Xianxia, who had the support of the Xianxia family, would be so easily dealt with. Li Xiao did not even suffer the slightest injury. While he was feeling uneasy, President Wang began to have nightmares. As soon as he closed his eyes, the nightmares would follow him like shadows. The nightmares were too real, causing him to still be dispirited when he woke up. After a few days, he lost most of his energy. No matter how many masters he found, when they heard that it was related to Li Xiao, they all rejected him quickly. He even made several mistakes in the contract because of his lack of energy, which caused him to lose a lot of money. President Wang did not know how long this kind of life would last. He could only obediently bow his head to Li Xiao and apologize to Li Xiao. Unfortunately, he could not even see Li Xiao once. He could only stay at home and stare blankly. After fighting back, Li Xiao went to find Songhai. In her eyes, Songhai was undoubtedly an undeserved disaster this time. When she mentioned this matter, Songhai said in a natural tone, "They are right. I am indeed your mistress." He was even very happy about this, because it meant that he belonged to Li Xiao. As for other people's opinions, Songhai did not care. Li Xiao choked. She did not expect Songhai to be proud of it. She sighed and said, "Although I know you don't care, when I see them slandering you, I will also be very angry." Songhai immediately changed his words. "Well, then they are really too much." It was the biggest sin to make Li Xiao angry. Li Xiao curled her lips and said, "Take out your real estate certificates." Songhai wanted to give these to her before, but they were returned by Li Xiao. Songhai did not know why, but he still took them out of the mustard seed. Li Xiao directly took a clear photo and then posted it on Weibo. If you want to be my mistress, you have to have at least this much wealth. Real estate license. JPG, this wave of flaunting his wealth openly could be considered to have washed away Songhai's label of living off a woman. Netizens flocked to Li Xiao's Weibo to check in. I was so scared that I ate a pack of spicy sticks. This real estate certificate blinded my eyes. This is the first time I know that real estate certificates can be described as boxes. I'm jealous. I'll print a box of real estate certificates for myself to comfort myself. I, who said that Songhai was a gigolo, silently came out to be beaten. Please beat me gently and spare my life. This standard of being a gigolo is too high. Not many people can do it. After being shocked by Songhai's net worth, netizens began to guess how much assets he had now. No one would think that Songhai was just a good-looking man. His net worth was also outstanding among the younger generation. They changed the topic and praised Li Xiao and Songhai for being a match in terms of social status. The previous rumors must have been deliberately spread by some people who were jealous. To a certain extent, they could be considered to be the truth. The marketing accounts that had been spreading rumors disappeared after the accounts exploded. Thus, this wave of public opinion came to an end perfectly. However, the liquidation in reality was just the beginning. Li Xiao and Songhai didn't need to do much. The country had already helped them. After Sun Yi was taken away, all the crimes he had committed in the past were dug up. If they were really investigated, he would probably have to stay in prison for a while. After the news spread back to the Sun family was in an uproar. Old Madame Sun doted on Sun Yi the most because he and her husband looked alike. After hearing the news, she almost fainted and asked, "Did someone frame him? How did he get arrested? Can't he say hello to them?" Father Sun shook his head with a serious expression. His crime is endangering national security. Impossible. This child has been very patriotic since he was young. How could he do such a thing? There must be some misunderstanding. Did the people around him lead him astray? In the eyes of a doting grandmother like old Madame Sun, if her child made a mistake, it must be someone else's bad influence. Not many people knew about Songhai's identity, and the Sun family was not included in this category. They asked an old friend for help and found out that Sun Ye's case had something to do with Li Xiao and Songhai. These two were obviously people that the country wanted to protect. No one else was allowed to touch them. Sun Yi, on the other hand, not only wanted to forcefully buy Li Xiao's well water, he also wanted to slander Songhai online. In the end, the police caught him and didn't care about the Sun family's face at all. Old Madame Sun saw that the hope of her precious grandson coming back was getting slimmer and slimmer. Every day, she imagined the scene of her grandson suffering in prison. It was like a knife cutting her heart. Every day, she washed her face at home with tears. Unfortunately, even if she cried her eyes blind, she could not change this fact. The more he inquired, the worse the situation became. Sun Yi had previously relied on the power of the Sun family to do many illegal things. Previously, there was the Sun family suppressing them. Now that the country wanted to settle the accounts, the Sun family had no choice. It was impossible for the Sun family to sacrifice the interests of the family for him alone. In fact, during this period of time, they didn't help Sun Yi with his connections. Instead, they were busy destroying some of the previous evidence to prevent the Sun family from being dragged down. The Sun family also had political enemies. They couldn't give others a chance to hit them when they were down. After old Madame Sun discovered this, she immediately got someone to book a plane ticket to S-City for her. She said to her sons, "The two of them are not letting go. Isn't it because little Yi offended them? I'll drag this old body of mine to apologize to them. They should at least forgive little Yi this time for my sake." Father Sun was a little helpless. The older his mother got, the more stubborn she became. He was now very regretful that he had indulged his son and raised him to have such a temper. In the end, he had harmed himself. "Mom, it was little Yi who made the mistake first." Old Madame Sun said, "Then why didn't anyone pursue this matter before?" "In the end, it's because he offended them. Don't try to persuade me. This is my own idea." She was faintly regretful. If she had known, when her precious grandson asked her about this matter, she wouldn't have underestimated Li Xiao's identity and casually agreed. In the end, she had harmed her. After old Madam's son made the decision, she ignored her son and grandson's persuasion and directly took a plane to S City. She had already done her research and knew that Li Xiao had opened a Taoist temple on Xianyuan Mountain. Therefore, after getting off the plane, she didn't have time to rest. She got the driver to drive her to Yunxiaoguan. Yunxiaoguan was now a little famous because of that well. There were even many internet celebrities who went there to check in. However, Xianyuan Mountain was only built 2 years ago, so the roads weren't smooth. Old Madam's son sat in the car and her face turned pale from the bumps. When she finally arrived at Yunxiaoguan, it was already evening. She was so hungry that her stomach was rumbling. She forced herself to eat some biscuits and a piece of chocolate before she felt a little better. She walked into the Taoist temple. Even with a picky eye, she couldn't help but admit that this Taoist temple was indeed unusual. It made people calm down involuntarily. She walked into the main hall and saw a Taoist priest chanting scriptures. Not far away, there were a few animals sitting in a row. Rabbits, foxes, crows. They seemed to understand the scriptures. They sat obediently and nodded from time to time. This scene inexplicably had an indescribable Zen feeling. At old Madam's son's age, she originally believed in ghosts and gods. When she saw this scene, while she was surprised, she also raised Yunxiaoguan to a certain level. She had underestimated this Taoist temple before. After the Taoist priest finished chanting, old Madam's son stepped forward and said, "I'm looking for your Taoist priest, Li Xiao." The one chanting scriptures was Li Xiao's only disciple, Sun Rui. He nodded slightly at the animals and said, "Today's class ends here." The animals seemed to understand human language and ran away quickly. Sun Rui's eyes flashed with a faint smile. He asked the old pilgrim, "You are?" Old Madam's son said, "I'm Sun Ye's grandmother. I have something to talk to Li Xiao." Sun Rui, who was originally smiling, pulled a long face when he heard Sun Ye's name. He didn't have a good impression of Sun Ye at all. He was just an arrogant playboy who grew up with his own family background. Some time ago, Sun Ye's assistant came to him with an arrogant look and asked him to sell the well water to him. He also said in a condescending tone that he was willing to give them 200,000 yuan. Bah! The well water could strengthen one's body. He wanted to snatch it for 200,000 yuan. It was simply sending a beggar away. Of course, Sun Rui refused without thinking. The man immediately changed his face and threatened him, saying that he would teach him a lesson sooner or later. Sun Rui didn't wait for them to teach him a lesson. He was so happy that he wanted to set off firecrackers. Now that he saw old Madam's son come over, his originally happy mood suddenly turned bad. However, he couldn't bring himself to speak ill of the old woman. He could only ask for Li Xiao's opinion first. Li Xiao was next door sparring with Songhai. Although Songhai usually gave in to her, he wouldn't go easy on her when sparring. Li Xiao's level was trained in this way. Her illusion ability was getting better and better, and she could occasionally trick Songhai. After this sparring session, she looked at Sun Rui. Sun Rui quickly told her about old Madam's Sunday. Li Xiao frowned slightly and was in a bad mood. She didn't know where this old woman got the face to look for her. Her tone was indifferent. "I'll go and see what she has to say." Old Madam's son waited for a whole hour and was already quite impatient. However, she had a favor to ask, so she couldn't get angry casually. She could only endure it. It was indescribable how aggrieved she was. When she saw Li Xiao walking over, she forced a smile. "My Xiaoyi has been spoiled by us. He doesn't know his limits. I apologize on his behalf." Li Xiao raised her eyebrows and said calmly, "Since you know that you've been spoiled, you should keep him at home. Why would you let him out to offend people?" Old Madam's son didn't expect Li Xiao to not give her any face and speak so rudely. The words she had prepared were choked in her throat. Her face turned red. "For my sake, forgive him this time. Don't be calculative with him. He's been locked up for so long. He's already learned his lesson." Thinking of how her beloved grandson had been living during this period of time, old Madam's son's tears almost fell. When Li Xiao heard this, she only found it funny. "Who are you to me? Why should I forgive him for your sake? If I were just an ordinary citizen, I would have long become an ant at your mercy. When your grandson did something wrong, you didn't stop him. You even helped him commit evil. When something really happened to him, you hurriedly came to me to plead for mercy. Why? Because your skin is thicker than a city wall? Although respecting the old and loving the young was a traditional virtue, it also depended on the person. For someone like old Madame Sun who took advantage of her seniority, there was no need to give her any face. Besides, if Sun Yi hadn't been arrested, how could old Madame Sun have given in? Old Madame Sun was so angry that her chest kept heaving up and down, but she couldn't refute. She didn't take Li Xiao seriously in the past, so when her grandson mentioned it, she let him do as he wished. If she had known that Li Xiao and Song Hai were so difficult to deal with, she would have stopped him no matter what. Li Xiao's tone was cold. Besides, Sun Yi was arrested because he violated the country's laws. I don't have the ability to be above the law. Instead of begging me, you might as well go back and take care of your children and grandchildren, lest another Sun Yi appear. Old Madame Sun didn't believe this. Little Yi was arrested because he provoked Li Xiao. In the past, no matter how many things he did, no one came to find him. In the end, the source was Li Xiao. She gritted her teeth and said, "If you don't help me, I can only die here today." She put on a look of desperation. "If I die, you won't be able to get away with it." Li Xiao sneered. "Is this the attitude of asking for help?" She used an illusion to create a dagger, rope, and other items. She looked at old Madame Sun with a smile. "I haven't seen anyone commit suicide before, so I'm a little curious. Tell me, how do you want to die? Don't be polite, I've already prepared everything for you. Come, these are all for you. Or you can try them one by one. Anyway, even if you die, I can save you and let you die again." Without her permission, it wouldn't be easy to die. When old Madame Sun saw Li Xiao conjure daggers and other things out of thin air, she was so scared that her soul almost left her body. When she heard Li Xiao's cold and ruthless words, she felt a chill seeping out from her bones. She was really not afraid of her committing suicide, and she even looked forward to it. Old Madame Sun couldn't help but tremble. She used to be arrogant in front of others because she relied on the power of the Sun family. Now that she met Li Xiao, who was unmoved by force or persuasion, she was immediately at a loss. Her gaze fell on the things on the ground used to commit suicide. She wanted to throw caution to the wind and die, but in the end, she still cherished her life. Seeing this, Li Xiao said in a mocking tone, "It seems that you are also afraid of death." She said meaningfully, "Do you really not need my help?" The daggers and ropes on the ground seemed to have their own consciousness and floated in front of old Madame Sunday. Old Madame Sun couldn't help but take a step back. Her eyes flashed with fear and her face was as pale as paper. At this moment, she realized that her act of crying, throwing a tantrum, and threatening to hang herself was just a farce in front of Li Xiao. Li Xiao looked at her expression and only felt that it was rather uninteresting. If this person had a backbone and died once, she would still praise her for having a backbone. In the end, after all this time, she just wanted to use it to scare people. Did she think that everyone would fall for her tricks? The reason why Sun Yi was so unbridled was mostly because of her. Old Madame Sun wanted to say something, but suddenly a gust of wind blew and rolled her up. The sense of weightlessness and the fear of the unknown made her scream and beg for mercy. At her age, she had to experience a roller coaster, and it was the kind that didn't have a seat belt. She was so scared that her heart was about to jump out of her throat. Just a few minutes, but for old Madame Sun, it felt like a year. When the wind wrapped around her stopped, she looked around and found that she had been blown directly from the mountain to the foot of the mountain. No matter how brainless she was, she could see that this was a warning. The other party could even control the wind. The immortals in novels were nothing more than this. Thinking that she had offended such a powerful being, old Madame Sun was so regretful that her intestines turned green. Her confidence before leaving the house was completely shattered. She didn't dare to stay here any longer. With trembling hands, she took out her phone and dialed a number. Li Xiao knew that the wind was caused by Song Hai. She did not stop him. Song Hai had always done things with a sense of propriety. At most, he would teach the other party a lesson. He would not kill anyone. She would not be soft-hearted just because old Madame Sun was an old woman. Humph, if you include her previous life, then Li Xiao's seniority was much higher than hers. She instructed Zhang Yan to send a talisman to old Madame Sun so that she could experience various ways to commit suicide in her dreams for the next week. The illusions she created could pass off as real, and the feeling of pain and touch were 100% real. It was also to prevent the other party from using this method to threaten others. As for the Sun family, she didn't make a move. There was no need for that. Even so, news about the Sun family was still sent to Li Xiao one after another. In the end, Li Xiao also learned that Sun Ye's previous affairs involved other members of the Sun family who were still in positions. A few of them were dismissed, and some of them were detained for investigation. It could be considered a serious injury. Li Xiao naturally wouldn't sympathize with them. If the target of Sun Ye's matter wasn't Li Xiao and Song Hai, but ordinary people, then there would be another group of victims who would have no one to turn to for help. Sun Yi could still leisurely be his young master. Compared to the Sun family, Li Xiao had more important things to do. Song Hai's birthday was coming soon. Li Xiao also asked Lu Haixing and the others if they remembered Song Hai's birthday. After asking, they found out. Birth characters like the date of birth were generally not announced to the public. Instead, they were carefully hidden. After all, for immortals, once they knew the birth characters, they could do a lot of things. Moreover, immortals had a long lifespan. They might go into seclusion for decades or centuries. Therefore, immortals usually celebrated their birthdays by choosing a millennium, such as a millennium or two. They would choose a suitable time in the year they wanted to celebrate. Therefore, Li Xiao helped Song Hai determine his birthday in the human world. Well, it was the day she met Song Hai. This was also Song Hai's first birthday in the human world. She couldn't fool him. These days, she had been worrying about what to send Song Hai as a gift. The current Song Hai didn't seem to lack anything. The country had helped to prepare a house. As for jewelry, Li Xiao had seen Song Hai's warehouse. There were all kinds of rare treasures. Alas, it was so troublesome. When she complained to her cousin Su Ro about this, Su Ro covered her mouth and chuckled. Why don't you give yourself away? He'll definitely be very happy. Li Xiao shook her head. No, I was originally his. How can I give him another gift? Her confident tone stunned Su Ro. She felt like she was fiercely stuffed with dog food. Lu Hao's eyes lit up. I got it. She could give Song Hai a territory that belonged to him, although Song Hai was now rich and had a house, and was a winner in life in many people's eyes. Li Xiao still felt that he had suffered a great grievance. After all, his territory used to be so big, but when he woke up, it was all nationalized. He couldn't even change back to his original form and swim in the ocean as he wished. Li Xiao wanted to give him a vast territory that allowed him to be free. Of course, she wouldn't directly create a new world like she did hundreds of years ago. She didn't forget that in order to create that world, her original body was seriously injured and even torn apart. She herself had to recuperate for so many years before she recovered a bit of vitality. She also didn't want to fiddle with a new territory on Earth, otherwise, it wouldn't be good if she was targeted. Li Xiao had an answer in her heart. She decided to make a relatively small planet in space. When the time came, she could name it Song Hai. This gift was definitely unprecedentedly generous. Although there were legendary rich people who spent a lot of money for true love and named a planet after their true love, how could it be better than Li Xiao directly creating a planet that belonged to Song Hai? Her heart moved, and her figure appeared in the world outside of Earth. The void mirror in her body floated out, blooming with brilliant light. Li Xiao half closed her eyes. As the saying goes, the first time is difficult, the second time is easy. With her previous experience, creating a planet this time wasn't so difficult. What's more, this time she didn't need to create a life, which imperceptibly reduced a lot of work. She described the appearance of the planet bit by bit. The ocean was a must. At least it couldn't be smaller than the East Sea. When the time came, Song Hai could go and decorate his dragon palace. Remote Cloud Mountain also needed it. Although it was a gift for Song Hai, she would definitely go there to play in the future. So she needed to leave a piece of her territory. There was also a castle. The castles in foreign countries were also quite beautiful, so she could add it. In the universe, a planet gradually took shape. Like a white paper being painted by an invisible brush, it was dyed with color at a speed visible to the naked eye, from barren to beautiful. Li Xiao was the god of creation of this new planet. Creating a planet out of thin air, even with the void mirror, was very difficult. Li Xiao's void mirror no longer had its original luster, and it was much dimmer. But fortunately, it wasn't the time to reach the limit. She didn't know how long it took for her to circulate her spiritual power to the void mirror. As if a breeze had blown past, the white fog dispersed, revealing a blue planet. Li Xiao couldn't help but reveal a bright smile. Her birthday gift was finally done, her heart skipped a beat, and she looked at the time. Ah, it was Songhai's birthday. She didn't notice the passage of time in the outside world. She didn't expect it to pass so quickly. Her figure reappeared outside of Earth, and she just happened to return home to celebrate Songhai's birthday. At this time, the sound of heavenly thunder seemed to ring in her ears, and a strong sense of crisis descended. Li Xiao's expression became serious. Heavenly tribulation. She didn't expect her heavenly tribulation to come at this time. So angry, didn't they know that there was only one birthday in a year? It didn't come earlier or later, but it just had to come at this time. Although she was angry that this heavenly tribulation didn't come at the right time, Li Xiao had to deal with it first. She raised her head to look at the lead clouds above her head. The dark clouds were brewing a terrifying power. Just looking at it made people tremble in fear, as if their souls were about to be shaken because of it. Li Xiao obviously couldn't return home at this time. Otherwise, her immortal origin mountain would be destroyed if the lightning tribulation came. Then she might as well directly pass the heavenly tribulation here. The void mirror floated above her head, and at the same time, the purple lightning struck straight down. The void mirror rushed towards the lightning bolts. While blocking a portion of the lightning tribulation, it also absorbed the power of the great Tao contained in the lightning tribulation. However, even the void mirror couldn't block all of the lightning tribulation, and a portion of it still fell on Li Xiao's body. Li Xiao couldn't help but let out a muffled groan. Damn, it hurts. At this time, she wished she could just deprive herself of the feeling of pain. Unfortunately, it was useless even if she deprived herself of the feeling of pain. After all, the power of the heavenly tribulation was torturing her soul. At this time, she suddenly thought of a very important matter. Wait, if it was here, it was probably within the range of the satellite, right? Did this mean that the whole world could see her tribulation? No. She had to maintain her image and not let others see her in a sorry state. Li Xiao, who was originally focused on passing the tribulation, immediately divided a bit of her attention and used an illusion technique. Just as Li Xiao had guessed, the satellite quickly transmitted her situation back to Earth. The leaders of the various countries couldn't help but put down what they were doing and watch the scene that seemed like a legend. In the purple lightning, the girl's bright face revealed a stern expression, and she faced the fierce heavenly tribulation without hesitation. Countless stars surrounded her, as if the stars were surrounding the moon. Although there was no sound, they seemed to be able to hear the loud sound of the lightning tribulation. The lightning bolts seemed to be striking their bodies, and they couldn't help but tremble. Just looking at this scene made their souls tremble, and they couldn't help but feel fear and cower. They all showed a shocked expression at the same time. They also recognized that it was Li Xiao, the master of metaphysics in Hua Nation, and also the girlfriend of the legendary Qing Long and Songhai. At that time, everyone thought that as a human, she was favored by the gods and could be said to have reached the heavens in a single step. However, after seeing this scene, they realized that Li Xiao was probably not an ordinary person. Could an ordinary person survive such a terrible heavenly tribulation? Mr. President, our signal has been hijacked. The leader of M country couldn't help but ask, hijacked? Yes, now on the screens all over the world, Miss Li's image is playing. The same image appeared on all the big and small screens. It was as if a virus had been implanted in them, and they could not be removed even if they were turned off and restarted. Even if the batteries were unplugged, the images would still be the same. With the vast universe as the background, a huge purple thunderbolt fell from the sky. Just looking at it made people tremble subconsciously. No one knew where the thunderbolt came from. It appeared as if it had appeared out of thin air. Under the thunderbolt, the slender figure looked so weak. Many people in the Hua nation recognized that face, Li Xiao. After all, she was someone who had been on the hot search list many times. Coupled with her unforgettable face, it was very difficult to forget her. In the airless universe, she did not have any astronaut equipment on her, but she still had a mysterious calmness. It was as if she was not in the universe, but somewhere on Earth. Her palm was facing up. In the next second, a sword made of light condensed in her hand. The sword was bright and dark, but it flickered with a bewitching light. In the next second, the sword changed its direction and slashed at the thunderbolt that fell on her body without hesitation. The thunderbolt was forcibly split open. When it came into contact with the sword, it collapsed silently. There seemed to be some kind of ripple in the surroundings. Bolts of lightning were cleaved apart by her unyielding stance, turning into broken flowers that disappeared into the void. This scene was like a legend, dazzling everyone who saw it. They couldn't help but doubt their own eyes. Countless bolts of lightning fell, but they were all killed by Li Xiao with a single slash. In the sky above Li Xiao, a huge mirror gradually condensed. The mirror was simple and unadorned, and the words Taishu were written on it. These two words were not in Chinese, nor were they in any language on Earth. However, for some reason, when they saw these words, everyone could instantly understand the meaning of these words. Even the illiterate could understand the meaning of these words. Everyone could not help but hold their breaths. Whether this scene was real or fake, they could not help but be immersed in it. The mirror gradually solidified. The later it was, the more difficult it was to solidify. The last purple thunderbolt struck down with a biting cold murderous intent. Its power was several times that of the previous thunderbolts. Li Xiao looked at the thunderbolt and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. The great void mirror that was condensing into her body suddenly went silent for a moment. Soon after, it bloomed with a scorching brilliance and welcomed the thunderbolt with an attitude of not looking back. It even greedily absorbed the true meaning of the great Tao contained in the thunderbolt and used it to temper its own strength. Li Xiao's heavenly tribulation passed in an instant. She also felt that her strength was constantly rising. Not only had she recovered the strength she had before the great void realm was seriously injured, but she was also continuing to grow stronger. She had a premonition that even if the current her were to create a new world, she would spare no effort. When the lightning ended, the great void mirror flew into Li Xiao's hands. Li Xiao held the great void mirror in his hand and spun it in the void. Countless meteors rained down on Earth. The stars fell like rain. Li Xiao smiled faintly. At the same time, on the internet, public opinion from all over the world exploded. Is this the trailer for the movie? The special effects are too good. But the bug is also very big. People have to wear spacesuits in space, right? She's not wearing anything and can still breathe? Ah. Why can't I turn off the video even though my phone is turned off? Is it a virus? I'm going crazy. This is really viral marketing. The country doesn't even care about it? The relevant departments. Li Xiao is so beautiful. It's really 360 degrees without any blind spots. The screen is dirty, I'll lick it clean first. When the movie comes out, I'll support it, okay? I'm convinced by this marketing campaign. Great Void? Does anyone know what that mirror is? When will the same peripheral be released? I've already prepared my wallet. I like it so much just looking at it. F***CK. Everyone, look out the window. It's really a meteor shower? Is it the same as in the video? Astronomers, come out and take a beating. There's no trailer at all. It's really a meteor shower. Damn, don't tell me this video is real? Xianxia naturally saw the video as well and was forced to watch the scene of her daughter transcending the heavenly tribulation from beginning to end. Unlike the people around her who thought that it was movie special effects, she knew that this scene was probably real. She stared at the screen without blinking, her heart hanging in midair. Because of her nervousness, sweat seeped out of her forehead, ruining her exquisite makeup, but she didn't have time to care. So what's going on with Li Xiao? Why is she transcending the heavenly tribulation all of a sudden? Although Xianxia didn't read much novels, because she had a Qin Long as her son-in-law, she specially looked up related information in this area and could more or less guess the situation. With a bang, her office door was opened, and Yuan strode in. There weren't many people in the world who dared to enter without knocking. This best friend of hers from university was one of them. Yuan's mouth was like a machine gun, shooting non-stop. What's going on with Xiao? Is the heavenly tribulation real? I couldn't get through to her just now. What about you? Xianxia only had one answer to her friend's series of questions. I don't know. Yuan and her looked at each other. After a while, she said, Xiao is your biological daughter, right? Xianxia fiercely glared at her. Isn't that obvious? No matter how many secrets Xiao had, she was still the daughter she had painstakingly given birth to after 10 months of pregnancy. Her gaze fell on the screen, and after seeing that Li Xiao had successfully transcended the heavenly tribulation, a faint smile appeared on her face. In the next second, she saw on the screen that Li Xiao was holding the mirror in her hand, and countless meteors fell on Earth. She felt something and walked to the large floor-to-ceiling window. In the pitch-black night sky, dazzling meteors suddenly streaked across the sky, illuminating the velvet-like sky. It was a rare meteor shower. Xianxia and Yuan both quieted down and stared at the burning stars without blinking. They couldn't help but be immersed in this unparalleled beauty. They subconsciously softened their breathing, afraid to disturb this tranquil beauty. At the same time, they were also deeply shocked by the scene. Even with the current advanced technology, they could only predict when a meteor shower would descend. However, her daughter Li Xiao directly created a meteor shower, as if she was a mythical god. Originally, Xianxia was worried that her daughter would be coveted by the whole world after creating such a spectacle. However, after seeing this meteor shower, she immediately felt relieved. Who would dare to offend a person who could easily create a meteor shower? When one's strength far exceeded their imagination, ordinary people wouldn't even dare to be jealous. People would be jealous of humans who were of similar strength, but they wouldn't dare to hate a god. Strength was her best passport. This meteor shower lasted for an hour. Xianxia's feet were a little sore from standing in high heels. She was about to return to her chair and have a good rest when Yuan suddenly pushed her and said in a dreamy tone, Manqin, look. Manqin, look. There weren't these stars before, right? Before this meteor shower, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. There were only a few sparse stars in the sky. However, now, many stars suddenly appeared in the eastern sky. Xianxia nodded absent-mindedly and subconsciously connected the stars to form a line of words. Happy birthday, Songhai. She muttered and came back to her senses. Her pretty face was filled with unconcealable shock. Today is Songhai's birthday? In the end, Li Xiao made such a big scene just to celebrate Songhai's birthday? She thought that she was just showing off her strength and intimidating others. This was simply a forced public display of affection. She was forcing the whole world to watch her public display of affection. While not knowing whether to laugh or cry, Xianxia also felt a little jealous. A grown girl couldn't be kept at home. There were many people who had the same opinion as her. They all expressed that this public display of affection was going to make them choke to death. Li Xiao successfully passed the heavenly tribulation and removed the illusion. In fact, when she was transcending the heavenly tribulation, she wasn't as calm and composed as she was in the video. Instead, she was dodging in a sorry state. However, she, who valued her image very much, chose to use an illusion to package herself. No matter what, she couldn't lose her cool. After the heavenly tribulation ended, she also realized that the day had already passed. She didn't make it in time for Songhai's birthday party, so she created a meteor shower to feed the whole world dog food. They had no choice but to eat it. She stood up and turned her head. She saw the lush figure in the void. Li Xiao revealed a bright smile. With a tap of her body, she appeared in front of Songhai with a beaming face. Do you like my gift? Songhai pursed his lips. I like it. In fact, he was the most insecure. In this relationship, Li Xiao had always had the upper hand. Her every move could affect his heart. He often thought that Li Xiao was so good. Was she with him purely out of pity? Even if the original intention of this relationship wasn't pure, he still tried his best to hold on to it. He didn't expect that Li Xiao would confess to him in front of the whole world. Yes, in Songhai's eyes, Li Xiao's action was a confession. Li Xiao smiled like a flower, revealing a mischievous look. Actually, my real gift isn't this. She leaned forward. When she was 2 centimeters away from Songhai, she suddenly paused. Ah, children can't watch. There were definitely underage viewers now. At the same time, everyone on Earth realized that their live broadcast had been cut off. Countless people were pounding their chests and stamping their feet. If Li Xiao had the ability to do a live broadcast, then she should do it all the way. What's the big deal about stuffing half of it with dog food? Li Xiao didn't care what they thought. She kissed Songhai happily and watched with satisfaction as Songhai's ears turned red and his body seemed to be smoking. Sigh, Songhai was good in every way, but he was a little too shy. Li Xiao often felt like she had taken the male lead script. After kissing, she was about to separate. However, Songhai pressed the back of her head and exchanged a long kiss. His hoarse voice fell in her ear. This is a return gift. Li Xiao. Songhai had indeed learned bad things, she blinked. Your kissing skills are not bad. It was much better than she had imagined. Songhai lowered his head slightly. Yes, they gave me a lot of videos and teaching materials. Li Xiao's mouth twitched. In a sense, Songhai's subordinates really made her speechless. She changed the topic. Actually, I have another gift. The void mirror turned, and the planet that was originally covered by Li Xiao revealed its original appearance. It was a faintly discernible blue planet. Although it was much smaller than Earth, it was still a real planet. There was no one else on this planet, only them. She pulled Songhai's hand, broke through the void, and stood on this planet. In his long years, Songhai had received countless gifts. However, all of them added together couldn't compare to Li Xiao's gift. His originally uneasy heart seemed to have found a home. He was no longer hesitant and confused. This is the home I'm giving you. Her smiling face seemed to glow. In Songhai's eyes, it was the most beautiful scenery in the world. This is our home. He corrected her. After passing the heavenly tribulation and showing off their love, Li Xiao happily returned to Earth holding Songhai's hand. As soon as she returned home, she was faced with her mother's strange expression. Xiao Xiao, are you really my child? Xianxia couldn't help but ask. She was a bit confused. The child she was pregnant with for 10 months suddenly ascended and passed the heavenly tribulation within 2 years. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she would have thought it was a lie. Li Xiao said, Don't worry, I'm definitely your child in this life. She paused for a moment and said, I just awakened the memories of my previous life. Although she didn't say the whole thing, Xianxia's short sentence had already helped her to imagine the cause and effect. She revealed an expression of sudden realization. No wonder Li Xiao's cultivation level improved by leaps and bounds, surpassing those of the righteous path. So there was such a reason behind it. Li Xiao should have been quite a big shot in her previous life. Maybe she and Songhai knew each other in their previous lives. Otherwise, in this life, why would Songhai only like Li Xiao and not anyone else? As long as she knew that she was still her daughter, Xianxia felt relieved. She said with a bit of jealousy, I don't even have a constellation. Li Xiao immediately said, When your birthday comes next year, I'll immediately arrange it for you. Xianxia laughed out loud, You don't have to be so high profile. She paused for a moment and said, I can wait a few more years. When my 50th birthday comes, I'll arrange it. Li Xiao sighed with emotion, When you're 50 years old, when we stand together, people will think that we're sisters. After Xianxia took the medicine Songhai gave her, she looked several years younger. When she heard this, her eyes unconsciously revealed a faint smile, I'll be relieved if you two live well. Originally, when Li Xiao and Songhai were together, she was happy, but at the same time, she was also a bit worried. Although Songhai liked Li Xiao very much now, who knew how long God's love would last? If the two of them had a conflict, would Li Xiao suffer? Now that she knew that Li Xiao was not an ordinary person in her past life and that her magic power was strong, she was relieved. No matter how likable Songhai was, Li Xiao was her daughter. She would definitely stand on her side. After seeing his mother, Li Xiao went back to the Taoist temple to stabilize his state. Originally, she thought that after she made such a big fuss, someone would definitely come looking for her. But in the end, life was still calm and peaceful, no different from before. When she and the Qing dynasty discussed this matter, the Qing dynasty laughed. The Qing dynasty came to her today because of Jiang Tian. She said meaningfully, they won't dare to look for you. What if you get angry and throw 100 meteorites on Earth? The existence of Li Xiao and Songhai was like a nuclear weapon. It was a kind of deterrence, so the international situation had been much more peaceful recently. Thinking of this, the Qing dynasty felt that he was really lucky. Now, there were countless people who wanted to know Li Xiao, but they did not dare to climb up to her for fear of angering her. After all, Li Xiao's temper was not very good. When she was angry, she would not give face to people easily. Because he knew her a long time ago, it was equivalent to having an extra trump card. He was really thankful to Chen Kain. If it weren't for Chen Kain, how could Li Xiao take the initiative to come to her? She had a discerning eye and did not look down on Li Xiao because of her age, so such a friendship was formed. Li Xiao's mouth twitched. Did she look like such a cruel person? She was not. At most, she would just strike a few lightning bolts. She wouldn't kill anyone for no good reason. The Qing dynasty said that Zhou Tian should not be an ordinary person, right? I checked his life history. It looks normal. But it's too normal. She knew at a glance that this life history was arranged. Li Xiao said, don't worry, he is not a bad person. Why did the Qing dynasty ask about Zhou Tian, the peacock spirit? All of a sudden, the Qing dynasty frowned slightly. He is too close to Tian. Just the fact that he used to be a male prostitute made her feel quite uncomfortable. Even if she knew that he was a male prostitute, he was basically teaching people in class and handling documents. Li Xiao's eyes suddenly shone with the light of gossip. What, there's such a thing? No wonder Zhou Tian did not stay in the capital but came back. She originally thought it was because of Songhai, but it turned out to be for love. She had only rested for a short period of time, and she missed a big deal. Tian and Zhou Tian. This match was really unexpected. The Qing dynasty was speechless by her reaction. Forget it, I will continue to observe. Li Xiao said thoughtfully, if he is the one pursuing Tian, I think it is okay. If Tian really liked him, and he was not a bad person, then she would just treat it as if she was keeping a gigolo. The Qing dynasty was more open-minded in this regard. After talking to Li Xiao, she knew that Zhou Tian was not a person with bad intentions, so she was relieved. She did not waste Li Xiao's time and left first. Li Xiao continued to cultivate and better control the void mirror. Fortunately, she used the yellow grain fruit to cultivate, so a few years had passed inside, but to the outside world, it was only a few days. The yellow grain fruit was produced by the void mirror itself, and it could only produce one yellow grain fruit every year. After so many years, it had accumulated a lot, and they were all kept by Li Xiao. After completely mastering the void mirror, Li Xiao found a small problem. In one of the fragments, there was an incomplete small world. The reason why it was formed was most likely because it reflected the main world. The story that happened in that small world happened to be the book The CEO's Movie Empress Wife that the Sparrow Spirit had read before. Because the laws were not complete, the characters did not have any rules. The protagonist's aura was in charge, and the supporting characters were miserably abused by the protagonists. Li Xiao told the Sparrow Spirit about this, and the Sparrow Spirit immediately became interested. I want to see it. How about we go into that world and take a look? Li Xiao's mouth twitched, and her expression was not very good. Do you want to go in and see how I am abused? She roughly read through the plot and realized that in that world, Su Manqin, who was pretending to be crazy, really went crazy in the end. One night, she saw an illusion outside the window and chased after it. However, she missed a step and fell to her death. Li Xiao inside, after framing Li Qianfei, was sent by Lu Namju to marry a son of a rich family with eccentricities in that area. Li Xiao could not bear the humiliation, so she committed suicide. She wanted to crush the bottle. As the reincarnation of the void mirror, shouldn't the protagonist's aura be on me? Although the Li Xiao inside was not herself, it could be regarded as a small part of her projection. Li Xiao was very angry that she ended up like this. The Sparrow Spirit said weakly, then can we go and set things right? adjust the plot back? Li Xiao glanced at her and said, if I do it myself, I always feel that it is degrading. Are they worthy? I will fix the rules of that world, and you can deal with the rest. Don't you want to see the plot with your own eyes? It can help you find inspiration. The sparrow spirit was suddenly moved, and then she complained with a crying face, what if I can't beat the Xinglunian? Sob sob sob, she was just a little sparrow. The Xinglunian inside was not dead yet, and she definitely could not beat him. After all, she only knew how to write, eat, drink, and play. Li Xiao said lightly, I give you the right to punish on behalf of the heavens. That world was an irregular world projected by the void mirror, and Li Xiao controlled all the power, so it was not a problem to temporarily give it to the sparrow spirit. You can also find a helper, she added. Otherwise, if it was just the sparrow spirit, she would be a little worried. Okay. I will ask the orange cat for help. The sparrow spirit immediately had an idea, and happily took the orange cat to the instance dungeon. That's right, in her eyes, there was no difference between this and an instance dungeon. Li Xiao was speechless. Why did she feel that the sparrow spirit was going there for a vacation? She did not know what the sparrow spirit would do with her personality, and she was a little excited just thinking about it. After a moment of dizziness, the sparrow spirit steadied herself and pulled Huang Jinmiao's sleeve. Her face was pale, and she looked pitiful. Ugh, she could not help but vomit. Transmigration was not comfortable at all. It felt like she had been on a roller coaster 10 times, and her entire bird life was not good. After vomiting, she took out the dried bayberry from the mustard seed, and the sweet and sour taste made her feel a little better. She stored many of her favorite snacks in the mustard seed. Huang Jinmiao glanced at her with some disdain, you are too weak. The sparrow spirit said eloquently, I'm not weak. I'm powerful, be careful, or I'll strike you. One had to know that in this world, with Li Xiao's various privileges, she was an invincible existence. If Huang Jinmiao did not treat her well, she would send him a few lightning bolts. Huang Jinmiao's blonde hair was especially flamboyant, and when he smiled, his canine teeth were exposed, making him look even more unruly. Come at me if you dare. Woo-woo. The sparrow spirit did not dare to do so, as she still needed the Almighty to help her score. She changed the topic, let's go to Li Xiao's grave first. Sigh, the Li Xiao of this world was really pitiful. She was forced to commit suicide. They were all Li Xiao, but why was the one here so weak? Li Xiao had already helped the sparrow spirit's identity in this world. She was Li Xiao's good friend from the same major when they were studying abroad, Li Quebec. Her role in this world was, after learning that her good friend was married, she rushed back to China, but she did not expect to receive news of her good friend's death. The sparrow spirit found a private detective to help her investigate Li Xiao's grave in this world. 3 days later, they arrived in front of her public grave. She looked at the simple grave, and her face was filled with righteous indignation. This is too shabby. She had already asked, and the public grave here was only about 1,000 yuan. The location was very remote, and it was quite simple. Next to it was Su Manqin's grave, and the mother and daughter's graves were placed together. Su Manqin and Li Xiao's net worth added up to tens of billions. In the end, Lu Namju and the others only used the cheapest cemetery to make up for it. She was afraid that the money would be swallowed up by those people. Because this world was only a projection, the rules were not complete. When a person died, the projection would disappear, and it would be a true death. There would be no reincarnation, no reincarnation. There would be nothing left. Therefore, she could not even see the Li Xiao and Su Manqin of this world again. Huang Jinmiao sneered, they probably thought that they were already very benevolent by helping to collect the corpse. Because she was in a bad mood, it started to drizzle. Before the raindrops could fall on the sparrow spirit, they bypassed her, forming a vacuum around her. Huang Jinmiao looked at the raindrops falling on him with a speechless expression. No matter what magic he used, he could not avoid them. This sparrow spirit really held a grudge to a certain extent. Forget it, he was not afraid of the rain anyway. When he went back, he would take her to the dungeon a few times and let her die a few times. Then she would know who was the father. He asked, what are you going to do next? The simplest way, of course, was to directly use lightning to strike those people and make them disappear into thin air. The sparrow spirit clenched her fists and said righteously, "Of course I'm going to report them." Lu Namju forced Li Xiao to marry someone else, causing her to commit suicide. This is an arranged marriage. According to the law, violently interfering with another person's freedom of marriage, causing the victim to commit suicide, is punishable by at least 2 years and not more than 7 years in prison. It would be too easy for them to just kill them directly. Of course, she had to make them suffer a fate worse than death. At the same time, she had to educate them about the law so that they could learn to be law-abiding people. Even she, a spirit, was so law-abiding. What reason did those humans have to not follow the law? Huang Jinmiao was stunned. So why did the sparrow spirit, who had the power of life and death, only think of the law when it came to torturing scum? The sparrow spirit asked hesitantly, in this case, does Lu Namju count as intentional homicide? If it's intentional homicide, the sentence will be longer, right? The corner of Huang Jinmiao's mouth twitched. How would I know? The sparrow spirit looked at him with disdain. You've been in the human world for so long. How could you not know anything? If I knew you didn't know anything, I would have found someone else. This teammate was too weak to carry. Huang Jinmiao was very unhappy. He wanted to cook the sparrow in a hot pot. He was not a lawyer. Wasn't it normal that he did not know these things? Li Qianfei woke up from her dream. She subconsciously looked to her side. Quan Ilsen was still so handsome even in his sleep. Her heart calmed down. She had just dreamed of Li Xiao. In the dream, Li Xiao was still as arrogant as when they first met. The corners of her eyes and the tips of her brows revealed a hint of mockery towards them. She didn't do anything. She just looked at her quietly. Her eyes made her feel cold all over. She just wanted to run away, but she couldn't move in her dream. She comforted herself that it was just a dream. Li Xiao was already dead. Not only her, but her mother was also dead. Both mother and daughter had become mud under her feet. She should have been relieved, but the lingering uneasiness made her frown. Her movements finally woke Quan Ilsen up. Quan Ilsen had just woken up, so his voice was hoarse. What's wrong? Did you have a nightmare? He knew that his wife often had nightmares. According to his wife, when she and his mother-in-law returned to the Li clan, they were bullied by the mother and daughter. Li Qianfei bit her lower lip. She hesitated and said, I'm thinking about whether to change Li Zhao's grave and her mother's grave to a better one. The previous one was too shabby. Did Li Xiao think that she could pester her by entering her dream? She didn't even want to rest in peace after death. Then don't blame her. When the time came, she would ask Uncle Xing to do something to the grave and suppress the mother and daughter forever. Quan Ilsen's tone became cold. Qianfei, you're too kind. They hurt you so much, but you let bygones be bygones. Of course, Li Qianfei couldn't tell her husband her real purpose. In her husband's heart, she had always been a pure and kind little angel. She just smiled innocently as usual. Death is the most important thing. She has already paid the price. I don't want to argue with her. She's quite pitiful, dying at such a young age. Although young Master Zhang is not as good as you, his family background and appearance are not bad. Mom and Dad let bygones be bygones and carefully picked him out. I didn't expect her to be so angry that she really committed suicide. Li Zhao's suicide was described as a result of her anger in a few casual words. Quan Ilsen frowned slightly. He knew that Li Xiao liked him. Was that the reason? He didn't know why, but he didn't like talking about Li Xiao. Every time he talked about it, his heart would feel heavy. He closed his eyes, feeling a little dispirited. The next morning, Li Qianfei woke up early and dressed up. Although she was already married to Quan Ilsen, she was still dressed in the same way as before. She was wearing a very pink princess dress, which made her look like a little princess in a fairy tale who didn't know about the world. Today, she was going back to see her parents with Quan Ilsen. Quan Ilsen originally lived abroad, but after marrying her, he bought a house in S City and settled down because he felt sorry for her because she often traveled between the two countries. Thinking of this, Li Qianfei's heart felt sweet as if she had eaten honey. The luckiest thing in her life was making Quan Ilsen fall in love with her. When the two of them were ready, they arrived at the Li clan just in time for lunch. Her mother, Chan Kain, didn't look too good, but when she saw her, she still showed a gentle smile. "Mom, what's wrong? Did uncle and the others come to take advantage of you again?" Chan Kain shook her head. "Your uncle and the others are living well in the countryside." She paused for a moment and tucked her loose hair behind her ear. "I just had a dream." Li Qianfei's face changed slightly. "You also dreamed of Li Xiao?" Chan Kain paused for a moment. "No, I dreamed of Su Manqin." The mother and daughter looked at each other, and they both saw a trace of panic in each other's eyes. Li Qianfei quickly told her mother about her idea. After hearing that her mother also had a nightmare, she was more certain that the mother and daughter were haunting them deliberately. They were already dead. Couldn't they just accept the fact that they were losers? Chan Kain hesitated for a moment, but still nodded. "I'll talk to your uncle Zheng." Only then did Li Qianfei reveal a smile. She intimately held her hand and sat down, preparing to eat lunch. During the meal, she picked up some of Quan Ilsen's favorite food from time to time with her chopsticks. She felt that it was a pity that her brother, Li Qianxing, was still abroad. Otherwise, they could have a family reunion. But halfway through the meal, the doorbell suddenly rang. Li Qianfei frowned unhappily. Who was so blind to come to their door when they were eating? The doorman quickly called and told them, "There are 2 people at the door. They say they are Miss Li's friends." Li Qianfei was puzzled. "No, I don't have an appointment today. It's Miss Li Xiao." These words made the whole room quiet down. Li Qianfei's face flashed a trace of unnaturalness. She was used to the fact that she was the miss of the Li clan. Lu Namju was silent for a moment, and said in a deep voice, "Let them in. Let's see what they want." Soon, they saw the guests. The girl standing on the left was very short, about 1.5 meters. She had a baby face, and there was a trace of childishness between her eyebrows. She seemed to be underage. The man next to her had deep and handsome facial features. His flamboyant blonde hair was like rice ears, and there was a wild smile on his lips. "You said you're Li Xiao's friends? What do you want?" Lu Namju cleared his throat and spoke first. It was Sparrow Spirit and Huang Jinmiao who came to the door. Sparrow Spirit raised her chin and said, "Of course we're here to deal with Xiao Xiao's property. Xiao Xiao made a will before she came back to China. At that time, I thought she was just preparing for a rainy day. I didn't expect that when she came back to China, she was already prepared to die." When she said this, her eyes naturally turned red, and there were tears in her eyes. She looked even more pitiful. The corner of Golden Meow's mouth twitched. Sparrow Spirit usually had the attitude of "Guru, please teach me how to fly," or "Guru, you're the best on the internet." He really didn't expect her to have such a dramatic side. "Impossible." Li Qianfei blurted out, "Are you trying to cheat Li Xiao of her money?" That sum of money was already given to the financing company. How could she take it out? Su Manqin passed away earlier than Li Xiao. Her property was all in Li Xiao's hands. In addition to Li Xiao's, it was at least 20 billion yuan. Even if the Li clan had a large business, taking out 20 billion yuan at once would cause the Li clan's capital chain to be damaged. The more she said, the more she felt that this was the case. These 2 people were using Li Xiao's name to cheat money. Sparrow Spirit snorted coldly, "Show some respect when you speak. I have a black card. Why would I need to cheat money?" As she spoke, she took out a black card. Li Qianfei and the others' faces changed when they saw the black card. They recognized the tulip symbol on the leftmost side of the black card. It was said that there were only 5 black cards in the world, and those who owned them were all worth trillions. Even Quan Ilsen didn't have this black card. Sparrow Spirit, who had successfully suppressed them, put on a cold and elegant appearance on the surface, but in her heart, she was very proud. The feeling of being slapped in the face was so good. When she wrote the novel, she would arrange this scene in the plot and let the villain experience the feeling of being smashed in the face with money. She read Li Xiao's will. In the will, Li Xiao said that after her death, all her property would be donated to Project Hope. Quan Ilsen's expression was complicated. In his impression, Li Xiao had always been a vicious and stupid person. He didn't expect her to donate all her money so decisively after her death. Li Qianfei was stunned. She subconsciously looked at her father and asked for help in her voice, "Dad." How could she do that? Xianxia murmured. Sparrow Spirit rolled her eyes. Xiao has always been so kind. She just wasn't good at expressing herself, so some people maliciously slandered her. She looked distressed. Even a selfless and kind person like her can be slandered as a vicious woman. People like you who can't even bear to donate 10 billion have the face to say that she's vicious? Her words were actually a bit illogical, but no one could refute it. After all, they couldn't do something like donate all their property after their death. So you'd better take out the money quickly. Otherwise, don't blame me for suing you. Huang Jinmiao sneered, "You people are really funny. On one hand, you killed her, and on the other, you seized her money. Maybe you guys killed her on purpose for the money." Xianxia was on the verge of collapse, revealing a tearful expression. "We didn't." "Then what about Li Zhao's property? Who has it now?" In the face of Sparrow Spirit's questioning, Lu Namju and the others couldn't find the right words to defend themselves. They couldn't admit that the money had been spent on the company, right? Even Quan Ilsen looked at them as if it was the first time he met them. His expression was a bit more scrutinizing. Li Qianfei's heart was hanging on Quan Ilsen's expression. When he saw his expression, his heart was about to break. "Ilsen, you have to believe us. We're really not that kind of people." Her innocent expression was full of grievance. Tears hung from the corners of her eyes, making her look delicate and pitiful. Quan Ilsen asked back, "Then what about Li Zhao's money?" He had never thought about this question before. It wasn't until today that his friend Li Xiao brought it up that he realized something was wrong. "I don't know. It's all with Dad. We also didn't know that Li Xiao made this will." Lu Namju took a deep breath and said, "Give us some time. We'll take out the money." If Quan Ilsen wasn't here today, Lu Namju would have already used extreme means to teach these two people a lesson. Unfortunately, Quan Ilsen was here. For the sake of the Li clan's image, they could only endure. Huang Jinmiao asked very sharply, "How long do we have to wait? Can't you take it out now? In other words, you've already used the money, right?" Sparrow Spirit gave him a look of praise. She would never call Huang Jinmiao a pig teammate again. "You used to insult Li Xiao all day long. Now that she's dead, you're still spending her money. Aren't you despicable?" "I went to visit Li Xiao yesterday. Her grave was built with the cheapest material." "Where did you get the face to do that?" "If Li Xiao knows about this in the afterlife, she'll be so angry that she'll come in the middle of the night to settle accounts with you shameless people." As soon as he finished speaking, the rumbling of thunder sounded. A bolt of lightning directly struck down and fell on Li Qianfei. Li Qianfei's hair was directly split into an afro. Compared to her hair, she was more hurt in her heart. She directly collapsed on the ground with a pale face. Her eyes swept around in fear. She was afraid that Li Zhao's ghost would really come out from some corner. Sparrow Spirit cried and wailed, Xiao, I knew that you died an unjust death. After all, Xiao bullied her all the time and even threatened to stew her in the pot. Xiao was the one bullying her all the time. Quan Ilsen's expression was not good. It was as if he had met the person who slept next to him for the first time. Xianxia and Lu Namju's hands and feet were weak. They just didn't fall down. At this time, Xianxia really hoped that Xinglunian was here. If he was, she wouldn't be afraid of ghosts. Lu Namju was still trying to save his dignity. We really didn't expect Xiao to commit suicide. Zhang Yangping is very good in all aspects. He's worthy of her. Sparrow Spirit stopped crying and said, after I returned to China, I investigated. The Zhang Yangping you found is not a good person at all. He has tortured several people to death. With Xiao's pride, she definitely wouldn't want to be humiliated. I didn't know. Lu Namju subconsciously looked at Xianxia. Jiayin introduced him to me. Xianxia cried like a weeping beauty. I really didn't know about this. I was also deceived by him. He usually behaves very well. I swear I really didn't know. Before she finished speaking, a bolt of lightning directly hit her and knocked her out on the spot. As if it wasn't enough to vent its anger, the bolt of lightning struck her twice more. Li Qianfei was forced to swallow the scream that was about to come out of her mouth. She was afraid that she would follow in her mother's footsteps. Huang Jinmiao's tone was cold. That's why don't you swear? There's a god 3 feet above your head. Especially when this god was Li Xiao herself. Oh, now the Sparrow Spirit will temporarily take care of Lei Mu and enforce justice on behalf of heaven. The Sparrow Spirit faintly looked at Li Qianfei. So do you dare to swear? Li Qianfei really didn't dare. Her face was pale. She wished that she could just faint, so that she wouldn't have to deal with such an embarrassing situation. Quan Elson looked at this scene and felt a chill in his heart. He finally realized that Li Qianfei wasn't as innocent and kind as he thought. Even his weak and helpless mother-in-law had a vicious side. His seemingly affectionate father-in-law was also unbearable to look at. He was actually played around by this family and even held his heart in front of Li Qianfei. He couldn't tell what was real and what was fake. The Sparrow Spirit walked in front of Li Qianfei. Li Qianfei subconsciously shrank back. Usually, when she showed this expression, it could be said that she was delicate and pitiful. However, now that her hair was messed up after being struck by lightning, she looked like a punk. When she made this expression, it was hard for people to pity her. The Sparrow Spirit took a scale from her body. This scale was originally meant for Xiao. However, it was stolen by your mother's lover, Zhenglunian, and he gave it to you. Otherwise, Xiao wouldn't have fallen to such a state. Although the scale was only a projection, it was enough to summon the wind and summon the rain in this small world. It allowed Li Qianfei to absorb enough luck and obtain the so-called protagonist aura. Although Li Qianfei couldn't see what she took away, she could faintly feel that she had lost something very important. Her breathing became heavy. Her pupils dilated silently and she let out a wail, no. Then, her eyes rolled back and she fainted. The Sparrow Spirit looked at Quan Elson, who didn't know whether to help her up or not, and revealed a pitiful expression. I think I should let you see a memory. Li Qianfei was able to predict many things after she obtained that memory. Speaking of which, if Li Xiao hadn't transmigrated in the original world, it was possible that the plot of this small world would have developed according to this small world's plot. Quan Elson subconsciously didn't want to know, but he couldn't move. He could only watch as the Sparrow Spirit's fat finger came closer and closer to him and touched his forehead. At the same time, countless memories emerged in his mind. In this memory, the person who saved him wasn't Li Qianfei, but Li Xiao. When he grew up, he went back to find Li Xiao. Li Qianfei replaced Li Xiao's life-saving grace. Finally, after a series of grievances and disputes, he and Li Xiao were together. Li Qianfei, in order to survive, committed herself to a fat sugar daddy. Because she was avoiding her sugar daddy's wife, she fell off a building and died. After he absorbed all the memories, Li Xiao's 2 friends were no longer there. He wanted to ask them more, but he couldn't. Now, he couldn't look straight at Li Qianfei. He felt that the top of his head was green. Even when he saw the unconscious Li Qianfei, he felt like vomiting. It turned out that Li Xiao was the one he was destined to love. But he was deceived by Li Qianfei and became an accomplice. Unprecedented pain drowned him like a tsunami. He closed his eyes, revealing a painful and struggling expression. From now on, he would forever be immersed in regret and self-blame. He didn't look at the Li clan again. He turned and left, his back desolate. Lu Namju subconsciously called out to him, Ilson. Quan Elson looked disgusted. Don't call me that. You don't deserve it. He left without hesitation, not even looking at Li Qianfei. Lu Namju had a bad premonition and hurriedly chased after him. But just as he reached the gate, before he could get into the car, several people with serious expressions surrounded him. Lu Namju? Someone is suing you for violently interfering with the freedom of marriage, resulting in the death of the victim, Li Xiao. We hope you will come with us. Lu Namju's vision turned black, and he fainted. When Sparrow Spirit went to find Lu Namju, she didn't forget to broadcast it live. What she wanted was for these people to lose their reputation. Therefore, everything that happened in the Li clan was spread on the internet. The whole country was in an uproar. Li Qianxia wanted to use his network skills to delete the video and suppress the trending searches. But before he could do anything, he was caught with a dumbfounded expression. The things that happened in the Li clan made the masses gasp in amazement. One thing after another, they were about to vomit from watching. The things that the Li clan had tried hard to suppress were made public, and everyone's reputation was ruined. Not only the Li clan, but also the movie king Ren Xiaotang, the metaphysical master Zhang Lunian, and the foreign design master Ai Luan were all implicated. Quan Ilson even announced his divorce with Li Qianfei. Half a year later, the Li clan declared bankruptcy and became history. As for Quan Ilson, he made public his will, saying that he would donate all his assets after his death. After the Sparrow Spirit had watched a good show, she waited until everything was settled before she was satisfied and prepared to leave. 1 year in this small thousand world was equivalent to 1 day in the outside world. Huang Jinmiao was basically playing games. He yawned. I really don't understand you. You could have just killed them with lightning, but you had to go through so much trouble. Sparrow Spirit spoke eloquently. Since we're in modern society, of course we have to punish them with the law. Also, I've collected a lot of material this time. She rubbed her hands. When she went back, she was going to write a novel about a female protagonist who used the law to torture scum. Sigh, for a writer like her who was so law-abiding and positive, she hoped that the country could support her more. It would be best if she could sell the publishing rights for every novel she wrote. Huang Jinmiao asked, you haven't written in almost half a year here, right? So for the novel you're serializing now, do you still remember the content you wrote? Sparrow Spirit seemed to have been struck by lightning and was petrified on the spot. It's over. She had forgotten everything. She didn't even remember the outline of her next novel. She showed a crying expression. She had even promised the readers that she would update every day for a week. If she had known, she would have brought her novel in. Half a year was enough for her to save a lot of manuscripts. Huang Jinmiao looked at the baby face with a mournful expression and felt very happy. Seeing this expression, it could be considered as getting back some interest. Li Yu's weekly diary. July 21st, 2XXX, the weather is sunny. Today, I asked my mother how I was born. My mother told me that I hatched from my father's eggshell. I even asked my mother if I could have a cute younger brother or sister. Auntie Tiantian's Kiki is very cute. When she sees me, she always gives me a toothless smile. But my mother said that she was too lazy to hatch eggs. My father wanted to sleep. If I wanted a younger brother or sister, let me hatch it myself. I really wanted a cute younger brother or sister, so I went to buy a lot of eggs and tried to hatch them. In the end, as I incubated them, I fell asleep. When I woke up, the eggs were crushed. Sob 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 sob, I killed my younger brother and sister. I was so sad that I was not in the mood to eat the cake made by Auntie Little Green today. Later, when I found out that Auntie Xiao K had a stomachache, I felt very lucky. Fireproof, burglar, and cake, July 24th, 2XXX, the weather is sunny. I watched the stars tonight, and with my excellent eyesight, I found a shining star. I was very happy and asked my mother if I could use that star as my courtyard. When the time came, I would race horses and play peekaboo in the courtyard. I also wanted to build the world's largest amusement park there. But when I told my mother excitedly, she rejected me coldly. My mother said that she built the garden for my father. If I wanted it, I could build it myself. I was not allowed to stare at the star. I was very sad. I felt that I must be someone else's egg. My parents were too lazy to have children, so they secretly brought me back. The world was so big, but there was no place for me. I was very angry and decided to run away from home to let the adults see my determination. But when I packed my bag and prepared to leave Earth, my mother gave me a lot of beautiful gems. Alright, I'm sure I'm still my mother's child. I won't run away from home. August 2nd, 2XXX, the weather is drizzling. Recently, Uncle Orange Cat went to participate in the esports competition. No one brought me to play games, causing me to keep losing games. The most angry thing was that there was someone on the other side who kept scolding me. I scolded back fiercely. I ran to ask my father if I could buy this game. At that time, I would ban whoever scolded me. My father thought about it and asked me to ask my mother. When I heard this, I knew that there was no chance. His mother was a cold woman. She would never agree. Sure enough, my mother told me to use my own money to buy it. My little treasury is going to be used to build a house made of gems for me in the future. How can I spend it on something like this? I am very sad, so the weather around me is not very good these days. When I heard that my grandmother almost fell because of the rain, I hurriedly ate a bucket of ice cream to recover my mood. People like us have to set an example and be responsible for the people around us. After eating the ice cream, I was so sleepy. I'd better go back to sleep. August 8th, 2XXX, cloudy weather turns to showers today. I went to the party with my grandmother. For someone as cute as me, of course, I'm loved by everyone. Everyone praises me when they see me. I can't help it, I'm just that outstanding. I was very happy to hear their praises and let them continue to praise me. At the same time, I learned a few more idioms to enrich my vocabulary. However, I realized that these people didn't have as many words as I did. They kept repeating the same few sentences. Not happy, there was also a person who looked like a dog who ran over to tell me to be careful of Uncle Xiaolong. Be careful that he won't seize power in the future. I know this kind of person. My mother told me before that they can't bear to see others live a good life and like to sow discord. Humph, as the smartest dragon, I won't be tricked. Seeing his kindness, I decided to tell his wife that he has a few mistresses and illegitimate children outside. I hope that his wife can give me a banner to help others. I saw a lot of banners hanging in my mother's room. I really want one. August 13th, 2XXX, cloudy weather. Today, I went to the set to see Uncle Xiaolong. Uncle Xiaolong is still so handsome. Also, he took me to eat a lot of delicious cakes and gave me a lot of shiny gems. I now declare, Uncle Xiaolong is the most handsome in the world. Even more handsome than my father. It's just that Uncle Xiaolong is very busy. Not only does he have to film every day, he also has to deal with the company's affairs. My father and mother threw everything to him and the two of them went on a trip. Uncle Xiaolong is still the most miserable. Uncle Xiaolong told me that he was stupid in the past and was tricked into learning a lot of things. After he learned it, my father pushed everything to him and went off to be carefree. So he told me that my grades can't be too good and that I can't be too outstanding. Otherwise, when I grow up, I'll have to be an ox or a horse. When he said this, his eyes were filled with tears. He looked extremely pitiful. I think it makes sense. I've decided not to study hard. I'd better not do my summer homework. I'm going to play. No one can stop me from being a hedonistic son. Liyu's language teacher was also her form teacher. Qingyi looked at the diary of her class's students and felt the veins on her forehead jumping out. There was a big problem with this diary. Every entry was full of flaws. She didn't say anything about using the stars as her backyard. Children were always innocent and naive. It was normal for them to have some fantasies and like to dream. This was also the cuteness of children. But mistresses and illegitimate children were very inappropriate. These things shouldn't be known by children. She had a pained expression on her face. Especially Liyu's uncle, who actually encouraged her not to study hard. At the thought of this, she unconsciously tightened her grip on the notebook, and a ferocious expression flashed across her delicate and pretty face. From the diary, Liyu's uncle was now in charge of the company's affairs. Liyu's parents were obviously very irresponsible. They played every day and left their daughter to her own devices, causing her to not even know that she had been brainwashed by her uncle with ulterior motives. She couldn't help but imagine a lot of things in her mind. What about rich families fighting for property and killing their competitors? She also knew that the school she worked in was a so-called aristocratic school. The students' families were either rich or noble. However, Qingyi's sense of responsibility as a teacher made her unable to watch her student go down the wrong path and really become a hedonistic rich second-generation heir. She had a very good impression of Liyu. She was a little girl who was as exquisite as a doll. Her smile was especially sweet, and her eyes seemed to have stars in them. She usually listened very seriously in class. She stood up and placed the diary in the drawer. Then, she went to the class to look for Liyu. It was time for class. She looked in from the window. Because it was the first day of school after the summer vacation, many students had yet to recover. There were many who were absent-minded and did some small tricks. Among them, Liyu sat upright and looked at the podium seriously, as if she was listening attentively. Qingyi nodded slightly and revealed a gratified expression. Such a good child, she could not let her be led astray by that bad uncle. After a while, the bell rang. This was also the last class of the day. The students packed their bags and prepared to go home. Qingyi walked in front of Li Yu and revealed a gentle smile. Yeah. Li Yu raised her head and smiled sweetly. Hello, teacher. Qingyi was about to melt from this smile. She swore to the heavens. She had to protect her student's smile. Yeah, when will your parents be free? I'm going to pay a home visit. Yes, she made a very reasonable request. As a teacher, it was normal for her to visit her students. When the time came, she would definitely tell the other party's parents about Uncle Li Yu's sinister intentions. Li Yu blinked. I have to ask them. She felt a little guilty. Why did she want to visit her home? Could it be that she had been discovered sleeping in class? But she had used her illusion properly. In the eyes of outsiders, she should have been serious in class. Could it be that she had forgotten to use her illusion? Qingyi looked at her cute appearance and could not help but reach out to touch her head. Yes, it's about your homework. Her tone unconsciously became a little more serious. Primary school is very important. You have to build a good foundation. Therefore, you can't rely on your intelligence to be lazy in your studies. The teacher will check your homework carefully. Oh. Li Yu's personality was somewhat similar to her mother, Li Xiao. She would not hesitate to retaliate against malice. However, although she did not agree with the kindness of ordinary people sometimes, she would not give them face. She had a good impression of Teacher Qing as the form teacher. Although she was a little naive, she treated her students sincerely. She usually treated them equally and would not treat them differently because of their identities. She prayed silently in her heart that her parents would not be free these few days. This way, when the teacher came over for a home visit, she could use her illusion to create her parents' appearances and fool them. This way, she would not be afraid of Teacher Qing complaining. However, when she returned home with this thought, she saw her mother, Li Xiao, looking at her with a smile. Is your teacher preparing for a home visit? Although she had never really met Li Yu's form teacher, she had a part to play in. The fact that the other party was able to enter the school as soon as she graduated. At that time, the school had shown her the information of a few teachers. Li Xiao had chosen the one with the best character through physiognomy. Li Yu's small face immediately fell. How could she have forgotten that her parents were powerful? They could divine this kind of thing at any time. She said with some grievance, yes. Li Xiao looked at her daughter. Li Yu's facial features could be said to be a combination of her and Song Hai's strengths. She looked like she was carved out of jade, making people's fingers restless. Li Xiao also pinched her without holding back. Anyway, she was her daughter. It would be a waste not to pinch her. What's wrong? Are you so afraid of a home visit? But I'm looking forward to it. This is the first time I've been visited. Or are you afraid that the teacher will complain? No way, I'm so obedient. Li Yu said reflexively. Li Xiao glanced at her. Do you think I don't know that you used illusions to deceive the teacher and classmates in class? Seeing that her daughter's illusions had improved, Li Xiao turned a blind eye to it. She had sent Li Yu to school because Li Yu wanted to play with other children. Otherwise, Li Xiao would not have cared. Her and Song Hai's child was born with their abilities. He could be said to be a favored child with a bright future. Li Yu could not help but feel guilty. So her mother already knew. She quickly changed the topic. Mom, let me tell you. When I went home today, I felt that someone was peeping at me. Li Xiao raised her eyebrows and calculated with her fingers. She chuckled. So it's him. She had calculated just now and it was actually Li Xianxia. Li Xianxia had finished his sentence and was released from prison this year. Li Xiao did not expect that he would not live a good life and actually target her daughter. However, Li Xianxia was probably out of touch with the times for too long and did not know Li Xiao's abilities at all. Just Li Yu alone was enough to make the other party suffer. Li Yu's physique was about the same as Song Hai's. She had a divine body and was invulnerable to weapons, water, and fire. Ordinary poisons were useless against her. It was good that the other party really made a move. It was a good opportunity to send him to prison again. This time, it was enough for him to stay in prison until he was old. Who is it, Mom? Li Yu's divination skills were average. Before she had more information, she could not divine it. Li Xiao said, "Don't worry, he's not your match." Li Yu was instantly excited. Then I can extort him, right? Previously, she had also encountered some kidnappers who had tried to kidnap her. In the end, Li Yu had directly taken advantage of them, filling her little treasury. Li Xiao could not help but laugh. She did not know how her daughter had developed such a personality. She was born a money grubber, especially when it came to gems. Sure. She felt that Li Xianxia should have some capital. Before he went back to prison, it would be good to let Yu extort the remaining money out of him so that it would not be wasted. Li Yu's mind was now filled with the matter of extorting the kidnappers. She did not take the home visit that she was originally worried about to heart. Looking at her mother's attitude, even if the teacher complained, she would definitely not force her to study seriously. Actually, she understood everything that the teacher said in class. That was why she was too lazy to spend time studying again. She might as well use this time to sleep and rest. She quickly told teacher Qingyi that her parents would be at home during this period of time. Qingyi set the 8th of September as the time for the home visit. Qingyi had only become a teacher last year and had not seen Li Yu's parents before. She could not help but be a little worried. She looked at Li Yu's family information and saw that the address was Immortal Source Mountain. She had heard of Immortal Source Mountain before. It was the land of immortals in the hearts of the people of S City. It was said that the owner of Immortal Source Mountain was a real immortal. The Yunxiao Guan on the mountain was even more prosperous, especially their well water. Many people even flew over to fetch water. It was said that drinking it could strengthen one's body. There were many people who wanted to live in Immortal Source Mountain, but ordinary people could not buy the land there. Seeing this, Qingyi's heart skipped a beat. Perhaps after her home visit, she could go and fetch a bottle of water for her mother. On the 8th of September, she would wait for Li Yu to leave together. Li Yu did not stay in school. Every day, the chauffeur would send her to and from school. Qingyi looked at the high-profile Rolls-Royce and could not help but feel alarmed. If she accidentally brushed it, even if she sold her, she would not have the money to buy it. When she sat in the back driver's seat, she was very careful. Li Yu did not seem to care at all and even started to eat snacks in the car. The car slowly started to drive. Li Yu hummed a little tune softly. She looked innocent and carefree, like a little princess in a fairy tale. Qingyi was so nervous that her hands unconsciously grabbed her skirt, causing creases to appear on it. Seeing this, Li Yu smiled. "Teacher, don't be nervous. My mother won't eat people, and neither will my father." She even handed a biscuit to Qingyi. Qingyi took the biscuit and thanked her in a low voice. Yes, she should not be nervous. No matter what the other party's identity was, she only needed to treat them as the parents of a student. After mentally preparing herself, her emotions calmed down a lot. Suddenly, she realized that something was wrong. This road doesn't lead to Immortal Source Mountain, right? It's easy to get stuck in traffic at this time, so I took another road. The chauffeur sitting in the driver's seat was wearing a baseball cap and his voice was a little low. The doubts in Qingyi's heart lessened a lot. However, as the car drove, she realized that her surroundings were getting more and more remote. She even saw Nanha Public Cemetery. And Nanha Public Cemetery was in the completely opposite direction of Immortal Source Mountain. Her face turned pale. There was something wrong with this chauffeur. Could this be an unavoidable kidnapping of a wealthy family? She turned on her phone and was about to send a text message for help when she realized that there was no signal at all. It was obvious that it had been interfered with. Qingyi's heart almost jumped out of her throat. Cold sweat broke out on her forehead and panic flashed across her face. What should she do? She took a deep breath and pretended to be in pain. "Ah, my stomach hurts. I want to go to the toilet." Only in this way could she go to other places with signals and secretly ask for help. A cold laugh came from the driver's seat. "Hee hee, looks like you're not stupid. You've noticed it too." The car stopped and the driver turned around. He took off his hat and revealed a handsome face. He looked at Li Yu with a cold gaze, as if he was poisoned. This chauffeur was Li Xianxia. Li Yu looked at the form teacher, whose expression had changed drastically, and comforted her. "Don't be afraid, I'll protect you." Although Qingyi was very touched, she also wanted to cry. She looked at Li Yu's still innocent and cute face and swore in her heart that she would never let such a cute little girl get hurt. But what should she do later? The other party should only be one person, right? If she held back the kidnapper, would there be a glimmer of hope? Although she was a little belated, she could not help but blame Li Yu's parents in her heart. Why didn't they arrange a few bodyguards by their daughter's side? In the end, this happened. When Li Qianxing heard Li Yu's words, he laughed mockingly. Protect? Wasn't this little girl's thoughts a little too naive? However, he did not waver because of this. His eyes were filled with malice that could almost materialize. If his sister Qian Fei was still alive, her child would probably be the same age as her. However, Qian Fei was dead. She died in a place that he did not know about. When he came out of prison, he immediately searched for his mother and Qian Fei's whereabouts. Because his subordinates had all been caught in one fell swoop, he spent a lot of effort. Through some channels, he found out that Qian Fei was dead and had died abroad. His mother was in a mental hospital. When he sneaked in, his mother could no longer recognize him. She often hugged a pillar and called his father's name. Li Qianxing was very heartbroken. All of this was caused by Li Xiao. The sparks of hatred continued to burn in his heart. Li Xiao had harmed the two most important people in his life, so he wanted her to taste this pain. He found Li Yu's driver and kidnapped his daughter to threaten him. Everything went smoother than he had imagined. He turned on the camera on his phone and prepared to record the scene of him torturing her. When the time came, he would send it to Li Xiao so that she would feel the pain of being stabbed in the heart. Li Yu blinked and looked at his actions. Although she did not know the identity of the kidnapper, the other party was really an idiot. He still wanted to leave evidence of the crime. When the time came, he would definitely be in jail. She turned her head and said to Teacher Chen, who was hugging her tightly, "Teacher, don't be afraid. Nothing will happen." Teacher Chen was also quite unlucky. It was rare for him to come to a home visit, but he encountered such a thing. Qingyi was originally prepared to risk her life, but she saw the kidnapper holding a sharp knife and continuously stabbing the seat. He kept letting out strange cries from time to time. Was he having a relapse? She quickly opened the car door and prepared to take this opportunity to escape with Li Yu. However, Li Yu shook her head and smiled brightly at her. Wait a while more. Qingyi, to get out of the car first. Teacher, I've said it before, I'll be fine. In the next second, a gun slowly appeared in Li Yu's palm. Then, she placed the gun in her palm. Take this to defend yourself. Oh right, do you know how to use a gun? Qingyi blinked and almost thought that she was hallucinating. However, the cold sensation of the gun in her palm reminded her that the scene just now was real. Li Yu had actually conjured a gun. Right under her nose, another ball of lightning appeared in Li Yu's palm. The lightning crackled, and her originally pitch-black pupils turned golden. Her face, which had lost its smile, had a kind of unreasonable arrogance. Qingyi was stunned. Li Yu's clear voice fell into her ears, causing her to recover from her daze. I'm a dragon. Of course I'll be fine. Dragon? Qingyi's lips moved slightly. She suddenly remembered that her colleague had once mysteriously told her that there was a true dragon protecting China. She used to think that her colleague had been deceived, but it turned out to be true. Impossible, right? She felt dizzy and couldn't even tell if she was dreaming or in reality. Then, she saw cute horns on Li Yu's head. It was obviously not something a human should have. So it was true. She took a deep breath and found her voice again. Then who is this kidnapper? Li Yu said calmly, I used an illusion just now to make him think that the chair was mine. She immediately revealed a vexed expression. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have let him think that the chair was mine. This car is very expensive. When the time comes, it will cost money to replace the chair. Mother will definitely deduct my pocket money. She raised her head and revealed a pitiful expression at Qingyi. Teacher, can you speak up for me later? I don't want to deduct my pocket money. When she revealed a coquettish expression, the inhuman feeling disappeared a lot. If one ignored the horns on her head, she would just look like a cute human girl. Qingyi could not help but soften. Even if Li Yu was not human, she was still her student. Moreover, she had always wanted to protect her. Her expression became gentle. I will. In the next second, the kidnapper who was trying his best to dismember the chair seemed to have seen a terrifying scene. His face was filled with fear and disbelief. No, he screamed and fainted. A rope appeared silently and tied him up. After Li Qianqing successfully dismembered Liu, he revealed a pleased expression. He had finally avenged his sister and mother. Blood splattered on his face. His expression was distorted and the corners of his mouth curled up. In the next moment, when his gaze landed on the head that had fallen to the side, that face belonged to his mother, Qianqing. Her eyes were wide open as if she was accusing him. Li Qianqing's blood turned cold. His head felt as if it had been hit by a hammer. He thought that he was hallucinating. He rubbed his eyes, but it was still his mother. He looked around the car. There was no Liu or that female teacher. There was only his mother, Qianqing's broken body. His hands were stained with his mother's blood. He had killed his mother, the person he loved the most in the world. No, Li Qianqing broke down and let out a scream. Then, he fell into darkness. After Li Qianqing fainted, Liu entered his dream and dug out his bank account overseas, including his password. Only then was she satisfied. Li Qianqing was richer than she had imagined. He had billions in his small treasury. With this money and technology, even if he had a criminal record, he would be able to live a comfortable life in the future. Who knew that he had to court death and wanted to come and kill her? Now, his little stash was also her little stash. Liu could not help but reveal a bright smile when she thought of the large sum of money that was about to be added. Even if her mother wanted to deduct her pocket money, she was not afraid. She had made a fortune this time. She knew how to earn money better than her mother. Qingyi asked, "Should we call your parents now? Let them send someone to pick us up." It was obvious that this area was in the wilderness. It was not easy to call for a car. Qingyi had not gotten her driver's license yet, so she did not dare to drive. Liu was ready to move. "I'll drive." "No." A clear male voice sounded. Qingyi subconsciously looked out of the car. She did not know when, but there was already an indescribably handsome man outside the car. He stood there quietly, as if he had merged with his surroundings. There was an indescribable harmony. His appearance was somewhat similar to Liu's. The car door opened by itself. Liu had already pounced over happily. "Daddy." When Qingyi heard Liu's words, she could not help but feel relieved. The person who came to pick Liu up was Xianxia. He patted his daughter's head and said firmly, "You're being naughty again." "No, I've been protecting my teacher well." "Why don't you ask Teacher Qing?" Liu turned to look at Qingyi. Qingyi immediately helped to testify. "Yes, Yu is very obedient and brave." She also got out of the car. Liu looked smug. Xianxia held her hand and said, "Go and hold your teacher's hand." Liu obediently did as she was told and asked, "Daddy, why did you come to pick me up?" "I originally wanted to drive myself." Xianxia lowered his head and looked at his daughter. "Have you forgotten that you're bad with directions?" Liu was unconvinced. "I just don't have any experience. I just need to practice more." Qingyi could not stand it anymore. This was not the main point. Isn't the main point that a child of Yu's age shouldn't be allowed to drive? This is too dangerous. Xianxia thought for a moment and said, "It'll be fine. She's a dragon. She won't die." The corner of Qingyi's mouth twitched. If Liu was a dragon, then it meant that at least one of her parents was one too. Did that mean that this person was very likely a dragon too? She suddenly felt very nervous. "Daddy, can I ride you home?" Liu looked at him eagerly. When she looked at people with stars in her eyes, no one could refuse, except for her parents. Xianxia rejected her directly. "No. Only your mother can." Qingyi's heart ached to death. Xianxia looked at his daughter's tearful appearance and added, "But on your birthday, we can make an exception." Liu smiled through her tears again. Xianxia did not say anything else. A spell of space-breaking burned without a fire. In the next second, Qingyi felt that the surroundings were changing at the speed of light. It was so fast that she could not see clearly and only felt dizzy. "We're here." When Qingyi stepped on the solid floor again, she realized that she was in a completely unfamiliar place. She took a deep breath and felt that the air she inhaled was so fresh and moist that it made her feel better all of a sudden. "This is the Immortal Source Mountain." Li Yu raised her head and said to her. She still liked this form teacher very much. Immortal Source Mountain? It was indeed an immortal mountain. Qingyi no longer had any doubts about the legends about the Immortal Source Mountain. She was led into the house in a daze. She felt like she was Granny Lu entering the Grand View Garden. She could not see anything at all. On this day, her worldview had been shattered many times and she could no longer piece it together. She finally met Li Yu's parent. It was a beautiful woman. She looked to be in her 20s and was unbelievably young. It was as if the stars in the sky had been rubbed into her eyes. Qingyi had seen this face before. It was Li Xiao. "I'm sorry to have frightened you today." Her voice was also so pleasant to the ears. "No, I'm not frightened." Qingyi's lips trembled, but she was not afraid. Instead, she was excited. Her eyes were even slightly red. Li Yu tugged at her sleeve. "Teacher Chung." However, Qingyi took a step forward and said to Li Xiao, "Are you Li Xiao, the one who sponsored us?" Li Xiao was stunned for a moment before she reacted. "You're a child from near Nanming village, right? I didn't expect you to be a teacher now." At that time, she had obtained the first Great Void Mirror fragment in Nanming village and saved many girls there. Most of those girls were already working. All these years, she had also taken out a sum of money every year to sponsor the children in the nearby villages to study. For example, she could help pay for the tuition fees for high school and university. Anyway, to her, that sum of money was just a drop in the ocean. Qingyi sniffled. Yes. Originally, the village she stayed in more or less favored boys over girls. However, when the news of the people in Nanming village being struck by lightning spread, the villagers were alerted and did not dare to go overboard like before. The treatment of the girls was also much better. After Li Xiao's sponsorship, she, who had to go out to work after graduating from junior high school, had the opportunity to continue studying. After she graduated from university, she was hired by the current school and became a form teacher. In her heart, her life had changed because of Li Xiao. Therefore, after seeing Li Xiao in person, she could not help but become excited. "Thank you very much." Li Xiao's lips curled up. "It's just a small matter. If you want to thank me, take good care of those children." "I will." All these years, she had always been grateful. Li Yu was a little depressed. She did not expect the teacher to be her mother's little fangirl. In the future, she would definitely help her mother keep an eye on her in school. Sob, 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 her life was so bitter. Qingyi did not know what her student was thinking. She only felt that today was indeed her lucky day. Because of this, she met her great benefactor. And her benefactor was so gentle and kind. She was simply a little angel. Li Yu was usually so cute. She must have learned from her. After happily sharing with Li Xiao what happened to Li Yu in school, she remembered that she was still preparing to go to the Yunxiaoguan next door to get water from the well. However, as soon as she mentioned it, Li Xiao smiled. "It's okay. I'll get someone to get it for you." Qingyi asked hesitantly, "Don't I have to line up?" Before she came in, she saw a long line beside her. Li Xiao said indifferently, "Oh, I'm the head of that Taoist temple. I can go through the back door." Qingyi was so happy that she almost fainted. Li Xiao even handed her a talisman. "Bring it with you. It can see through some illusions." "Okay." Qingyi was almost respectful. She suddenly remembered something. "Is Yuyu's uncle also a dragon?" "Yes, he even went to become a celebrity. You can see him on TV." Qingyi's heart was filled with embarrassment. To think that she had imagined many things about Yuyu's uncle deliberately flattering Yuyu. In the end, it was a big mistake. As a dragon, and with such powerful abilities, anything he wanted was within reach. There was no need for him to fight for the rights of a company. Fortunately, she did not say this. Otherwise, she would have made a fool of herself. Li Yu, who was beside her, puffed up her cheeks and looked unhappy. Her mother was targeting her. When her teacher wore this talisman, her illusions would no longer work on her in the future. She could not even be distracted in class. After sending Qingyi off, Li Xiao looked at her daughter, who was emitting an unhappy aura, and could not help but laugh. Alright, when your cultivation technique improves, that talisman will no longer be of any use. This could also be considered as stimulating her daughter, so that she would not only think about earning money to build an amusement park for herself every day. Recently, she had not spent much time on cultivation. Alright then. Liu felt that a dragon's life was really difficult. She was just a child. When she made an adult's expression, it would only make people feel that she was cute. Li Zhao's gaze unconsciously softened a little. She said to her, after a period of time, when the egg is born, do you want to incubate it? In any case, it was impossible for her to incubate it. At this time, the benefits of immortal cultivation were experienced. If she wanted a child, she could get pregnant. There was no need to carry it for 10 months. Otherwise, Li Xiao would definitely not have a child. Li Yu was stunned. Am I going to have a younger brother or sister? Then in the future, can I let my younger brother or sister carry me? Her father was only willing to do it on her birthday. If they agree, no problem. Li Yu was very happy. Okay, I'll go buy more eggs. Let's practice incubating eggs first. Li Xiao, actually, dragon eggs were not so easy to break. Forget it, as long as this child was happy. She would not tell her that she had already created a planet that belonged to Li Yu for now. She would give it to her on her birthday. It's better for the next child to be quiet so that you won't quarrel with Yaya. Songhai walked to her side and looked at his daughter who was mumbling by herself. There was a faint smile in his eyes. Li Xiao was speechless. Do you think you're making a clay figurine? Songhai asked, what if after Yaya hatches the child, it thinks that Yaya is the mother? What should we do then? Li Xiao was also stunned for a moment. Then let's just eat it. Forget it. In a sense, this pair of parents was indeed very magnanimous. End of chapter 172. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video to support the channel.